This episode of the AFTN Soccer Show is brought to you by Recovery Family Law. Recovery Family Law is here to help you solve your family law problems. If you are going through a separation or divorce, they can provide you the confidence to make good decisions and support to enforce your rights. If you have a question about property, children or support, they have the answers. It's not too late or too early to get help. Email info@recoveryfamilylaw.ca or visit recoveryfamilylaw.ca and let their team get you excellent results.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers.
Hello, hello, how do you do? We are the boys in white and blue, and we are top the league. Say, we are top the league. You're listening to another packed There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia, brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca for all your legal family needs. I am Michael McCall,
I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
And I'm Felipe Vallejo.
and we are here to talk Whitecaps. We're here to talk MLS. We are here to talk Canadian Premier League. In parts 3 and 4, we'll be doing our CPL preview for the 2024 season to come. And no feature interviews in this episode, although in part 2 we do have some audio from Vanni Sartini and John Herdman after the big Canadian derby at BC Place on Saturday. We'll get into that in this part. Before we get into that though, how has your week been, guys? It's been busy for me. I saw 4 matches in a 48-hour period.
Wow.
Were you in Doha?
It felt like it. It was 3 Provincial Cup games, 1 at Empire, 2 at Burnaby Lake, and the Whitecaps at BC Place, because it's my favourite time of the year. I love Provincial Cup time. Genuinely, it is my favourite. In the footballing calendar, I just love the Provincial Cup. So I got to see 4 games in that period. And Zach, I got to see someone we were talking about on the show the other week. Coda Lamotte.
Oh, you got to see him. Sweet.
Yeah, he was playing for Columbus tonight, and I was
Nice.
talking to Slamo,
Nice.
and I didn't know who he was. Well, I knew who Slamo was,
Oh,
but I didn't know who Coda was. And I was saying to Gordy, geez, that centre-back's a beast.
yeah. It's
And then Slamo came up at half-time. I was like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, Coda's playing. I was like, what number? He's like, 23. I was like, what? So, for Felipe's benefit, I have known Slamo and his wife, Karine, for many years.
Since
Pretty much
2007-ish.
Yes, since I came here. And I've known their son Coda this whole time. I remember Coda as a little boy. He is now a 6'4" centre-back with a moustache.
Yeah.
Unrecognisable to me.
Yeah.
Oh, wake up call.
Oh, making me feel really old as well. But it was nice to see him play. It was nice to see those games. How was your week, Felipe?
Good. Busy as well. I feel like now with the CPL coming in and the Whitecaps, playing week in, week out, a lot of the home games as well has made it. So it's been busy week and busy times, but I love it. I get to watch football games pretty much every day, and there's always something to watch on, and I get to write about it, and it fulfills me.
Yeah,
But
living
yeah,
the dream.
busy, genuinely, yeah, and yeah, just I'm happy that it's all going. I was missing it so much in the previous months. The adrenaline and the dopamine from watching
Mm.
games, where now I'm very much in it, and I'm thankful for it.
This is always my busiest month because it's MLS, CPL starting, League 1 starting, Provincial Cup starting. So it's just so much football. I've briefly seen Caitlin, but she is sick just now, so that's a benefit. We're staying away from each other. I don't know if she caught something on the island or if I brought it back from Scotland, but she's sick. So we obviously wish her well. How was your week, Zach? You were at a game?
Yeah, it's been a good week, a full week at work. Yeah, I got to see some Vancouver FC preseason friendlies. That was it's been I've seen I think four already this year, but yeah, there was one or two in this last week. It's good times. Good to see the squad gel and grow together, but we'll talk more about that in part 3 or 4.
Yeah. Well, talking about good times, that brings us to Vancouver Whitecaps. We're going to talk about them for the rest of this part. Last week, Kings of Cascadia.
Mm-hmm.
This week, Kings of Canada. Well, I mean, we're just the team to beat right now in Major League Soccer. Maybe Miami will have something to say about that. But we are top of the world. Well, top of the West. An impressive, dominant display against TFC. Aside from 2 scares in the first half that were both self-inflicted, and genuinely could easily have had TFC in the lead, but we'll come to that. But it felt a comfortable victory, and it reminded me of the Montreal game last year when Montreal came to BC Place and were torn apart. Now, then they were down to 10 men when the 5 goals went in. Kind of fitting that Montreal recreated that as well this weekend with their horrendous collapse against Seattle, where they looked all out of sorts. But it was a great victory, Felipe, and I think the important part of this victory is, especially after last week where they gave up the 2-goal lead, they came out in the second half and they still bossed the game, and they added to it this week, and they came away with a 4-0 victory.
Yeah, that, like you mentioned, that's probably the biggest takeaway from this match, is that, you know, they've had a really good start to the season, but maybe barring the Dallas game, I don't know if you can say that they've dominated all across both halves. And this was the first game where it really felt like they actually dominated from the first minute until the 90th minute, because yeah, those 2 moments quite scary, and could have easily changed the game. Thankfully, the soccer gods are looking down on us, on the, you know, with Takaoka saving our bacon as well. But I think aside from that, Toronto never looked in it at all.
No.
And you could see them getting more and more frustrated. I mean, Federico Bernardeschi was heating up on that pitch, and not in the good way. You could almost see steam rising from his ears, and it was a dominant display across the both halves, and it really showed that they have been working on, you know, game management, because that's always something that has been lacking a little bit at times with the Whitecaps. They play really good football, but they struggle with game management, because in the end, you know, game management is about being pragmatic. And that's something that I know that Vanni and the Whitecaps don't necessarily want to be. They want to be idealistic. That's the way they like to play football. So the fact that they actually became more pragmatic in their game management and kicked on and were able to score the third and the fourth was amazing. And really the most impressive part was the time between the beginning of the second half and when Ryan Gauld got that third in the 80th minute, because it was that period where we've seen time and time again, like RSL last season, RSL this season, the 70th-ish minute is where for some reason the team collapses, and they didn't in this game, and I think that shows some huge growth for the team, and it's something that I think all Whitecaps fans can be very happy about.
Yeah, I had to work on Saturday. I had a special work function happening on Saturday, and so I couldn't watch the game live. I also took in part of the Vancouver C friendly before I had to be at work. So when I had heard that I heard about the game, and I was like, okay, I got to go back. I got to watch this whole game. So I went back and I watched the whole game just to see like how dominant were they and how impressive was the victory. And it was like it was as you said the first time this season that they have totally dominated a side for like the whole match. Those couple blips or whatever, those couple moments, those the double post or whatever. Like, yeah, there were those moments, but they were still kind of like completely in control of the game. Even though Toronto is not a great side, and they
No.
weren't they weren't great, but that doesn't matter. Vancouver dominated them and totally outplayed them. And once again, there was these moments where you had players who have had good moments this year, but have faced criticism rising to the occasion. Like Schopf again playing out on the left and the right, but putting in a beautiful cross for Fafa Pico's the second goal
Oh,
of the game, right?
delightful, perfectly weighted. And like
Yeah.
we spoke last week, that first half I said was his best half as a Whitecap, and then
Mhm.
he tailed off in the second half. This game, we saw a more complete one, and a different kind of role as well, Felipe, kind of that hybrid wing back, and you touched on that in your analysis article for us on AFTN as well. He seems to be thriving in it, even though from the shop that we saw last year and the highlights and stuff we've seen of him, you'd be thinking. I mean, we were kind of joking. It's like Vanni has these players. It's like, okay, hasn't done what I need here, hasn't done what he needs here. Let's try him as a wing back and see if that works as a last resort. And it's starting to reap rewards.
Yeah, and it's surprising because usually with players like that have played wing back previously, because Shafi did when he was at Schalke, you usually see when as they get older, you move them into the midfield. But for some reason with Shop, he's actually doing better when you move him out of the
Mm-hmm.
midfield onto the wing. And it feels like he has a little bit more space, a little bit more time to think, and he's able to actually drive more towards players. And despite looking like he doesn't have legs, he's shown in these last few games he does have the legs to play out wide and in possession. Obviously, switching to the 4-3-2-1, the diamond one, he's able to play a bit more centrally. But honestly, I thought he was going to be playing even more centrally in possession. But he's
Yeah.
been going down on the wing with whoever's on the in the left forward position, whether it be Fafa or Ali. He's been doing really well connecting with them, and his deliveries into the box have been fantastic because I mean Fafa's a small guy. You need to have a pitch perfect cross for him to rise above everyone else and be able to head it into the goal.
That
Mhm.
said, though, Fafa should not be rising above
No.
two defenders like that to head the ball home. Because we'll hear from John Herdman in the next part. Herdman was talking about that, and it's like, and you've got Pico. He's 5 foot what, and he rises above our two defenders. That can't happen. And
Yeah.
it's like that can't happen.
Kudos to
No,
Vanni. Kudos to Vanni to have him now. It seems like he's cementing his spot in the starting 11, right? And
He's
having
like
Kralek,
one of the pickups of the off season across the league
yeah,
for value and everything.
and to have Kralek not in the starting lineup, I think is also beneficial,
Mm-hmm.
or at least not every game, anyways.
Yeah.
But
I'm still rooting for Demir because
oh
I
yeah,
love the guy and I really want him to come good. Let's look at the goal. So the first one's 6 minutes in.
mm-hmm.
Debbie Flores forgetting
Oh,
what team he plays for.
I felt so bad for Davey because
I didn't.
I know you don't like him. I like Davey
I
Flores.
didn't like him when he was here, and
I
I
liked
don't
him when
like
he
him
was
now that he's back.
I liked him when he was here. I thought he did well to away from here to earn his spot at TFC. He's been a someone, as I've listened to other people talk about TFC's games this year, he's been someone who stood out for them as one of their bright spots this year. And I felt really bad for him that he made such a poor play and Brian White picked his pocket and
But that's what White does. That's the thing. It's like
oh yeah.
we know White sticks his leg out. He blocks those kind of passes. So I don't know what was going through Flores's head. I don't know why he was even trying to play that ball. But kudos to Brian White, just back in the team from the concussion with the block, runs in. Debbie gives him a little tug, which some players would may have gone down, but he stays on his feet, slots it past Johnson.
Good finish.
And, great finish, great goal. Again, the Whitecaps off to that early start, and the Whitecaps lead MLS in first half goals. Which
That came up. Whoa. That came up on the broadcast. It came up after that goal. Eight goals in the first half, leading MLS, and then they of course extended it later. But yeah, I was a little surprised at that, at how good they are in comparison to the league as a whole. To be number one in that category is very helpful. The earlier your score goes in the game, the better it usually goes for you. But
I mean, it was everything that we know that Brian White can do, Felipe. I've got to say though, I don't think he did very much for the rest of the game. A couple of little touches here and there, but he kind of fell out of it.
I mean, I think he did pretty well to link up with certain players. I think there was maybe a little bit of chaos in the way that Whitecaps were counterattacking. It wasn't as clean as maybe Vanni would want, and I think Brian still had a good game overall. I mean, he did what he had to do. He scored a goal.
If he gets one chance and takes it, I'll take that every single game.
Exactly. So I mean, the beautiful thing about a player like Brian White is that he's not just a goal scorer, where then he becomes invisible. He's still, defensively. He reminds me of like a Roberto Firmino, where he's just pressing all the time, and he can create those chances, and he puts defenses under pressure, and it allows them to be able to win the ball back up high in those attacking transitions. So even if he isn't, having a bunch of shots on goal, he is great for winning the ball back high. And his link up with Ryan is, it's just telepathic at this point.
Sixth sense with each other. It's like
exactly
tremendous. The movement all round from the Whitecaps I thought was excellent in this. But we'll touch on the two scares. We've already touched on it a little bit. The one, the 17th minute, it's tipped onto the post and then it comes back and it hits Ranko and then it's off the post again. I mean, yeah, you're riding your luck there and it could have gone in. We don't know what would have happened then if it had been a level game. The one that was worse for me was Pedro Vite, that back pass that he tried in the 27th minute. I mean, you should not be doing that. And then Ranko, I think he was waiting for Yohi to come out a bit quicker, and it was just that hesitation let Kerr nip in. But Yohi, as we touched upon, absolutely fantastic save. And Takaoka's getting stronger and stronger. I'm getting really pissed off, but folk are still going on about his height. But when he maybe one goal goes in and it's like, a bigger keeper could have got that. He has been a really good keeper. He's been a solid upgrade on Thomas Hasal. And I just wish he was getting a little bit more appreciation that I think he deserves.
He's been a considerable upgrade on Thomas Hasal.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, we rode our luck. I'm not going to say that. And we don't know how the game would have been if Toronto had gone into a 2-1 lead. But you always felt the quality was there from the Whitecaps. I mean, TFC offered very little. We've talked about Fafa's goal as well to make it 2-0, so we won't talk too much more about that. The second half, TFC had a bit of possession to start it, but they weren't doing anything with it, and that was the thing. Osorio, I just thought was invisible in this game. And even Bernadeschi as well.
Osorio, I genuinely forgot he was in the game. I genuinely forgot he was in the 11.
Do you know what? There was a point in the second half I was thinking, who do I want to speak to if I go to the TFC locker room? And I was like, is also playing today? And I actually looked at the team sheet to see if he was playing as well. And I'm not just saying that, I genuinely did that in the second half. And then I thought, yeah, he's not going to be very chatty, so I won't speak to him. But then they needed to get the third goal, I think, just to ease the nerves after last week. And we'll touch on Portland in the next part, who are obviously second half comeback kings. TFC had none of that Portland had last week. The third goal, defensively, is an abomination for Toronto. I don't know what. There was a couple of times that Gold was left very close to the halfway line if they had got the ball up to him. This time, Kubis, big punt upfield. Gold runs onto it. I can't remember who the TFC player was that was chasing back that just lunged at Gold's ankle.
Cozy Thompson was the player who slipped and lunged.
Did he slip?
It was a slip. I don't think it was a lunge. It
Right,
really
okay.
looked like he
Because
just
I thought that was a
fell.
horrendous attempt at a tackle, because not only would that have been a straight red for him if he'd connected, but that was in risk of injuring a player like Ryan Gold running through. So
Yeah,
if
no,
it was
I
a
don't
slip,
think it was a tackle.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt then. But Gold did so well. Great individual goal, cool, calm, collected, slotted it past Johnson, game put to bed.
Yeah, it was a beauty. It's always great when you counter off a corner like that.
Yeah.
But Toronto's rest defense was non-existent on that
Yes.
corner. Like it was genuinely Sunday league quality.
Yeah.
And it was a few times where it's just like anybody who has a little bit of an inkling on football tactics knows is like you have to have players that are in and around the dangerous players for a counter to block that counter. And everyone was so pushed forward. They were like gunning for it that everyone just like forgot that there were other
Yeah.
players
It
behind
was
them.
so easy. And like, Ryan can be fast. He's not the fastest. It's like if TFC do this in other games, they are going to be absolutely punished. I mean, Fafa would have been away like a rocket. Ali Ahmed would have been away. Ryan Raposa would have been away. You just cannot defend like that. The fact that the last two guys were in front of Ryan Gold,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wow.
That's
Yeah.
what I mean. A
I mean,
non-existent
did they just
rest
not
defense.
see him, or did they just switch off? I don't know. Then the icing on the cake, again, a bit of fortune. I think Ranko was, I mean, maybe he was going for goal. I only caught the tail end of his press conference, so I don't know if he was asked if he meant that. It was a nice little lob, flick on, whatever. I'm so glad Fafa didn't touch it, because I don't know if it seemed borderline offside to me if Fafa had connected, but thankfully he left it anyway. And right away he pointed it was Ranko's goal. So
I the first time I saw it, I thought it was Fafa's.
Me too. I also
Yeah.
thought it was Fafa's goal.
but I mean, everything was fantastic, and it looked like the clean sheet was going to go out the window when Akinola played the ball into Mialula, but Takaoka again,
Oh,
fantastic
yeah.
leg save in our AFTN save of the season. That's probably up there at the moment because he hasn't had tons of overly impressive saves to have to make, but he's playing with the confidence just now. And what I like about the whole back line is that whole defence is playing with confidence, because you look around the rest of the league right now. We're obviously top of the West, and we're top of the Supporters' Shield standings on points per game as well. But we've got the second best attacking record in MLS behind Miami. We've got 14 goals to their 16, tied with a couple of other teams. Defensively, we've given up 6 goals. Only Atlanta and Cincinnati with 5 have got better defensive records. So we're the best in the West in attack, in defence. We're leading the way. And that defence I thought was excellent. I thought Laborda was tremendous again. And Bjorn Inga Utvik coming in for his first start.
Yeah.
I'm glad he got it after Blackman's performance last
Yeah.
week. But
Some more good coaching from Vanni there.
yeah, now there's a question though. It's like, I don't know that I changed that starting lineup against the Galaxy.
No, but these are the kind of decisions you want as a coach. You want to have to make the difficult decisions, and I think he's created that for Vanni. Like, it's going to be difficult to choose, and I think you're right. I think he stays with that lineup just based on how they performed.
Those 4 centre-backs, and even if you factor even Javane Brown into it as well, that's a very strong 4-5 rotation that he's got now, because the games are coming thick and fast. May, it's pretty much 2 games a week. So he's got these options now that you can just rotate these guys in and out, and it doesn't look any different no matter who's in there.
Yeah, that's I think the biggest thing that they have been able to achieve in the off season before the season started is getting that strength and depth. Because last season you look towards the bench, and both in the attack and the defense, you didn't really see many players that could, raise the level of the game. But now you have players like Utvik that could, he's done well in his sub appearances and he got the start and he did well enough that you have the question now of whether you start Tristan or whether you start Utvik. And the same can be said in the attack. You had Demir who had a really good start with the games against Tigres, and then he kind of faltered a bit, and then Fafa came in, and now Fafa is the one that's on fire. And it's the fact that they have different options on the bench, different profiles on the bench, that is what it's what has allowed them to be so strong in the game. And that's why they don't sort of lie down and die now. They can start games well, they can end games well, and it's just about connecting those two together like they did with Toronto.
And they're a joy to watch as well.
Oh yeah, beautiful football.
And the crowd, another great crowd of over 24,000. We talked in last week's show, getting these points on the board early is massive, because other teams are going to strengthen in the summer, so you want these points on the board now.
Oh yeah, and you're right, Michael. It's another game, massive crowd, where everyone leaves happy, having witnessed some fun football, some quality football, some great goals. It only bodes well for them.
Felipe mentioned Fafa's on fire. Obviously, the new goal song, which is Gala's Freed from Desire, a late 90s dance classic. I've had that in my head constantly last week, all through the week. This week as well, it's just... It's an old song. I know it's been used before. I think it's just added something special to the stadium. The only thing, though, is because I'm a West Ham fan,
right,
and they sing this at West Ham. Because... Do you know the actor Danny Dyer?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and he's been in lots of football hooligan films and stuff like that. He's Danny, Danny. His daughter is Danny, Dani. So he's Danny Dyer and Danny Dyer. And his daughter, Danny Dyer, is going out with Jared Bowen of West Ham. And Danny Dyer is a West Ham fan. And he was on a show I was watching recently where he said, it's really weird because he's in the crowd and the fans are singing, Bowen's on fire, and he's fucking Danny Dyer, Bowen's on fire. And he's like, I want to join in, but they're singing about fucking my daughter.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Michael.
I should share the clip of the interview. It was tremendous. But I've had the Jared Bowen version of my song all season because they've been singing that. So we'll try and see if we can get a Whitecaps one to kind of rhyme in that regard.
Are they doing another Football Factories?
No, he is making another film though about football hooligans though.
Okay, that's what it is.
He's playing the main part. Another Danny Dyer. Yeah. Okay. Last bit for this thing, I just want to talk briefly about TFC. We mentioned they look poor. They need a 9. They probably need a creative 10 as well. And on the back of yesterday's performance, they certainly need some help defensively.
Oh, man.
They started off strong. And we'll hear from John Herdman in the next part. When I asked John, does he feel that they're above where he thought they would be or about where they would be? And it's like, up until last week, they were doing it well and above where it is, but they've kind of dropped off now. They need help and they need it quick because this is a big job that John's got ahead of him.
They remind me of what you always are often say, Michael, that in MLS, you're wary of putting all your eggs in one or two baskets because when those eggs get cracked or they're out of form, then you're in a lot of trouble. And that's what it feels like with them right now. Obviously, Insigne is out. Bernadeschi wasn't in great form yesterday. Osorio, yes, coming back from a thing and not in form. And then they have these other parts that they just don't seem to fit very well. I mean, for them, hopefully Akinola can refine the form that got him to this level.
Just going, oof.
No, I know.
We were linked with him, and it's like, that'd be a good addition. It's like,
but the dude has the qualities and the abilities. Like he's shown it, but yeah, his form has dropped off, and for him personally, and as someone who, we tried to get him into the Canadian squad and all that stuff, right? I hope he finds his form and rediscovers all that. But yeah, you're right. They need a lot of help. And to be fair, I think that they have someone in Herdman who can help them. And for
He was
his
very
sake, for their
upbeat
sake.
after the match, but that's just his style. Like the thing is, Felipe, like I have a lot of time for John. Spoken to him a lot over the years. We used to chat to him about WFC2 games, and I wish him well. But I like to see TFC struggle. So it's tough, but they've got a tough job ahead of them. But they've got some points on the board early. They've got a little bit of wiggle room. They just need to make some additions. And I want to throw a name at you. Theo Bair, Ontario boy, lighting it up in Scotland. Could he be the 9 that they make a play for?
I don't know necessarily if they're capable of bringing him in. I mean, obviously they probably, I don't know if they have the money, but in terms of compensation, they could probably do it. I don't know about the salary cap. I think TFC fans can sometimes be a little delusional in the names that they think
Oh,
they could
they
vote,
would want way bigger than Theo Bair.
Yeah, no, because I even saw like Steven Eustachio is now playing for Porto. They're like, come to TFC, and it's like, where do you think you are? Like, who do you think you are?
But
Right now?
they've got the former Canadian head coach that can maybe talk these guys around. You've got 2026 coming.
Yeah, John Herdman has that pull with him, but I don't know if he has enough to be able to bring them to what still looks sort of like a sinking ship, because while John Herdman's, a great man motivator and he's someone that can really have, bring that band of brothers mentality, unfortunately for him, he just does not have great players. And it just kind of boils down to that. You look at that defense. And Shane O'Neill, he had a couple good games, but this week and last week against SKC, he just gets cooked every time one-on-one. And you saw Fafa's goal. It's just like he switches off so much. And last season with Sigur Rosted also, he wasn't great. And they let some of their really good young players go, and now they have to contend with some other mid-quality players where like Zach, you were saying, it's like too many eggs in one basket, and now you've left them with a supporting cast that is honestly, like, it feels sometimes like they're League One Ontario level and nowhere near MLS quality. So
I tell you, right now, I would not be surprised if Simcoe give them a good run for their money in the Canadian Championship, because they have signed some good players for that level, and they're going to be up for that.
Yeah,
Michael, there's no way Thelonious Bear would go to TFC. There's no way he would choose to go to TFC.
No, I know. I don't think so, but I mean, he's a Canadian forward in form. But yeah, I hope John gets the time, because obviously it's a long-suffering fan base that want immediate success after winning an MLS Cup. He was very upbeat after the match, and in the next part, we're going to hear from John Herdman, as well as Vanni Sartini, and give a look around the rest of the action in the MLS West. We'll be back with that after this week's song from our Album of the Month.
Hi, I'm Brian White, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Still wanna live in Wonderland.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. And kicking off this part, it's this episode's track from our album of the month here at AFTN for April, Diesel Park West's 1989 album Shakespeare, Alabama, and that is the opening track from it, Like Princes Do. Whitecaps' version, of course, would be Like Kings Do, since they are both Kings of Cascadia and Kings of Canada right now, riding that wave of jubilation. The latter, of course, being the Kings of Canada, was mentioned by Vanni in his post-game chat. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's hear from both head coaches after the Caps' big win over TFC in the Canadian derby on Saturday afternoon. First up, we'll hear from Toronto's John Herdman and then Vanni Sartini. Here's the Gaffers.
Yeah, I think this Whitecaps team is very cohesive. Certainly the link through that central spine with Kubas and the two centre-backs, in the central and the right, and then Brian White, Ryan Gold. I think, that spine is a lot more difficult to break down when you actually face it. When you look at the tactical footage, you can see the opportunities, but when you get out there live, you see the ground that Kubas can cover. I thought he was a real problem for us tonight. And then for us, I think just cohesively, we're still developing as a group. Players are coming back and trying to get that cohesion, consistency across the squad, and we were just loose in that first half. I thought the first half, we started the game quite well. A little bit of a mistake that led to a goal. I thought we were right there. Then we had a spell where, our pressing, we just needed to get tighter, and we fixed that, I think, for the first 15-20 of the second half. And then the transition goal just killed us. I mean, that goal from Gold is the moment that's going to put you in a position where it's going to be difficult to come back from. So, I think fair play to the Whitecaps. They're a very good team. I mean, they've been together under Vanni now for a good 2.5 years, and there's real chemistry there.
You talked about that consistency and how that was a little bit lacking tonight. Do the injuries that you have faced early this season contribute to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you go through a pre-season with a squad that are consistently playing, and they go into the first few matches playing consistently, and you lose some players, but that's normal in football. I think you've got to accept that you are going to lose players through injury. I mean, we've had a bit of bad luck at the beginning of the year, but at the same time, you've got to close the gap on that as a team. We lost, I think, 6 players, and we're able to get a result against Atlanta. And that's up for us, the next man up. And tonight, it was a balance of everything. Some of the tactical elements we have to get better at. Making sure that, coming into a place like this, we're more disciplined with our set, defensively. And I think we just got too loose. And that's on the coaching staff, that's on the players at the same time. But we'll get back. It stings, the loss, but we'll get back, review, and get back at it. And I think that's the mentality we've instilled in this group, that this season's going to be a tough season, there's no doubt, but it's a tough season for every team. They are going to have their moments with injuries, and for us, I think we're only going to get better.
Talk a little bit about what you've learned about your group, not just tonight, but over the last couple of games here.
Well, they'll keep fighting. That's really important to see. Like, there's no quit in the team. The goals that the Whitecaps scored, 2 set-piece goals, the transition goal from Brian, from Davey. There's a little error there, and, the transition from Ryan Gold. So, I've said this to my group, where we're self-destructing in big moments, and, it happened in the previous game, and tonight we've done something similar. So if we don't learn from that, we aren't going to keep progressing in that Eastern Conference. And I think that's the big step we've got to take. We've got to look at those moments and, how we set ourselves up to be harder to beat as a starting point. We were probably the best defensive record in the league, coming into the last 2 games, and then conceding 7 goals in 2 matches. It starts there, and that's where we'll be starting our inquest and starting our tactical review and, looking to strengthen coming into a tough match against Charlotte.
Thanks, Nick. Hello, John. I was just going to ask you about the message in the huddle, so if there's anything more to that you can share, please do. But that 3rd goal from Gauld, is that just something that comes with taking risks, or is getting beat on a counter off a corner like that something that will get your attention?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to get our attention, because if you look at, last week, big moments from KC were very similar. Set piece free kick, and they get a 1v1 against our keeper. Tonight, it's the same. And again, it's just attention, it's focus from the tactical and technical staff who have that responsibility to just make sure those lines are always set and organised against a team like the Whitecaps, who are just brilliant in transition. So for me, it was disappointing. I mean, the goals we conceded were very disappointing tonight. From a recycle on a set piece. I mean, that's a disappointing goal that, Fafa, who's 5 foot whatever, is able to get between 2 defenders and score a header. I mean, that should never happen. So, these are the things we will look at. We'll look at collectively. I know the players are disappointed with those pieces. And again, our focus in our training's got to come back to the clean sheets and that mentality. That's where Toronto FC was at its best, when we were able to manage those distances and keep the team tight, as well as manage those defensive transition moments.
John, you knew the task you were taking on when you took this job. A fifth of the way into the season, are you above where you thought you would be, or are you pretty much where you expected to be at this point?
Well, up until last week, we were well above, where the expectations were and set. The goals the team had set we were right on track. I think this week's that's been a bit of a body blow that we're going to have to take. It stings. Not only it's the Whitecaps, it's the Canadian derby, or one of them, but it's just that little bit of, okay, this is the real test now for this group. Can we reset, regroup this week? Can we focus on the growth areas, the learnings that we can take from the game, and can we go into the Charlotte game with a different intensity, a different mindset, which I think for us has got to be. On the road, you have to be hard to beat. It's the starting point. And I think, again, just tonight, when you look at coming off track, we've come away from home, and I felt we were just a little bit too gung-ho trying to press the Whitecaps when we could have let the game come to us. I think conceding the first goal early might have sort of triggered a feel like we've got to get after this game, but I think we could have been way more patient and committed to a set structure.
So, Vanni, last week you said the first half was, if it was like a city, it was Florence.
Yeah.
And if it was a person, it was your wife.
Yeah.
And the idea, it was socialism. So, was this game better than all of that?
Yeah. Well, it's really hard to find someone to top it, but we did it. So it was my mistake. Being a socialist, I should have known that we always look for the utopia, and we always march towards the utopia, and everything can be better in order to reach the utopia. So let's say that we're going there. We're going there. Today was fantastic. Today was amazing. So I don't know. It was like Florence by night, even more beautiful than.
And last week you were up 2-0, but you ended up making it close. And this week, how important was it to come out of the second half, not only maintaining the lead, but keeping the pedal on the gas?
I think, we outplayed them for the entire game, so that was never in discussion, the thing. And what we did much better in the second half at the beginning, because again, to be honest, it was only the first 15 minutes of the second half last week that I didn't like. This week, it was like having a clear plan. I told the guys the 2 chances, because TFC had 2 clear chances in the first half, only because we were doing those mistakes or not being humble when we win the ball back. So that's the thing, trying to win the ball back and trying to play immediately in the traffic, and then they had a counter, and one time there was Yohei post and the ball out, and one time we gave the ball back and they almost scored. I say we need to be very, very humble. As soon if they come with 15 players, because we were winning 2-0, 15 players pressing us, and we win the ball back, if we have the possibility, we play. If not, we kick the ball long and we go short and we go. And that was the right way to do it. Also because in the space we were killing them, and it was a beauty of game, to be honest.
Vancouver's never won the Western Conference, and obviously it's way too early to think about all of that, I understand. But can you talk about what it means to lead the club maybe into a new position or an unfamiliar position of being the top dogs and being the one that everyone else is chasing right now?
It's beautiful. I'm actually thinking about quitting my job and resigning. So I say that we were first when I was there. No, there's a lot of games to play and a lot of time to, but it's amazing to be there. It's amazing to be on top of the standings. Also because we deserve it. We played very well every game. We are doing really well, but at the same time, we realize that that is the harder things are coming, because now we're no longer just the nice Canadian kids, but we are the team that is at the top, and everyone is probably is going to look us with a different outlook at us, and in order to be on top, you need to keep winning, because to go from 8th to 5th. Maybe sometimes you can even miss a game and everything. When you're on top, in order to stay on top, you need to win every game. So it's going to be extremely hard. So what we do, we're going to enjoy tonight, enjoy tomorrow, and then from Monday night, Tuesday morning, starting to think about the Galaxy, because it's going to be extremely hard, and we'll try to keep playing very well. I want to say it again because, we showed that we are the best Canadian team, and we've been the best Canadian team for the last 2-3 years. And we needed, unfortunately, I don't know why we need to remind it every time, but it's true. It's by far the truth. And I'm really happy that we did it again. So I hope that also it goes this to our Canadian media, to One Soccer or whatever, just to know it that we are the best, and like deservedly so.
He's the gaffer. You can try it on with him. He's the gaffer. Even when he's on a limb. He's the gaffer. When his back's against the wall, has the answer to it all. He's the gaffer.
The gaffer's there, and as I mentioned, John Herdman was quite upbeat, but that is really John Herdman's style. He took a long time to do his post-game media. He was out in the pitch, putting the players through their paces. They were doing laps on the pitch and runs and stuff, so he's not happy, but he's the kind of guy that he knows he has to maybe cajole some of these players along a little bit. Vanni, on the other hand, cock-a-hoop, feeling that the Whitecaps don't get credit or coverage from Canadian-wide media that they deserve as the best team in Canada. And as he said there, we showed that we're the best Canadian team. We've been the best Canadian team for the last 2-3 years. I don't know why we need to remind it every time, but it's true. It's by far the truth, and I'm really happy we did it again. So I hope that this also goes to our Canadian media, to One Soccer or whatever, just to know that we are the best, and like deservedly so. And the funny thing was, after he said that, the next question was from Alex from One Soccer. Yeah. I mean, do you feel that the Whitecaps get the credit they deserve? And
I don't think
is it important?
I don't think that they have, generally speaking, in the MLS era, from the league, obviously, but even I think what Vanni's saying is fair in terms of the Canadian landscape. Obviously, I mean, there's always that challenge in this country, right? You have the media center, right? And the team that's there and the other team that's, second closest to there get more coverage. I'm not saying it's right. It's not right, but it's in some ways understandable, right?
Well, it's like in England. The London clubs
Yes,
get
yeah,
a lot of
exactly.
attention. In Scotland, it's the Glasgow clubs. It's always centralised.
Yeah. So you're right. In most countries, you deal with this in some way, shape, or form. I think I probably share your feelings on this, Michael, and that in one sense, yeah, it'd be nice to have the bigger coverage of the club and what they're doing and their achievements and all that. But in another sense, it's maybe helpful if you don't have
Don't put a
more,
huge target on
yeah,
your back.
exactly. The more attention you have, yeah, the more people are looking to knock you off your perch. And so, yeah, I think there can be a downside. Now, should the Whitecaps continue on this roll that they're on, yeah, they'll the coverage nationally, the cover, in America, throughout MLS will rise. Right? If the Whitecaps are a top one or two team in the league or top one or two team in the conference, their coverage will increase.
I mean, yeah, if they're going for the supporters shield, and like everyone's playing things down and not getting carried away, and I like that, and that's what they should be doing, because it's great to be top, but as soon as you're top, you've got every single team trying to knock you off, and that's what it's going to be like. And sometimes it's better to be a late riser and then hit your form late on. But as I said, getting the points on the board early is also huge. I think what helps the Whitecaps now is they're an enjoyable team to watch, home and away. Now, there's the odd game or the odd spell of games where it's not. That's football. And I've said to you before, I don't care if they're enjoyable or not. 1-0 wins, I'd be happy with. But it is also a lot of fun when they're playing well, especially covering the team. I've told you before, and I don't know if I mentioned this on the show or not, but when I wrote for MLS's website, I was constantly told no one in mid-America cares about the Whitecaps. You don't have players that the general American public is interested in. And we still don't, really. But if you're playing attractive football, Vanni's helped so much. He's so charismatic. And I know there's still some in the fan base that don't like his style and stuff, but it puts eyeballs on the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that he was calling out to One Soccer because I think One Soccer's favorite Whitecap is Vanni.
Yeah, they've given him a lot of attention, but I'm happy for things not to. When I was on because I went into John Herdman's press conference, so I was the only person that was in there media-wise, and the rest was by Zoom. There was only 3 Toronto media on that call. That's like change days.
Molinaro,
James Grossi, and actually Gemma from Canadian Press, who's Vancouver-based, but she was covering both the press conferences as well. Now, we all saw the picture last year that was put out by Neil Davidson of like one person at the thing, but there was actually 3 at that as well.
And that was a bit of a misunderstanding. I think they tried to keep people away from that, I think, is my understanding. I could be wrong, but that's how I thought.
The thing is, though, when you start to do that, you turn the media away. And in a city like Toronto, there's so many other sports teams to cover.
Michael, wait, you're saying when you turn the media away, then you get less coverage?
Crazy, eh? Whereas there's other teams, like in the CPL, that would just be desperate for some media to come along and cover them.
True. That's true.
But let's turn our attention to the rest of the MLS West now. So the Caps, as we mentioned, they're top of the West. And partly that is thanks to LAFC winning the LA Derby, 2-1 win over the Galaxy in somewhat controversial circumstances. Timothy Tillman had put LAFC ahead 4 minutes in. Galaxy fought back. They looked dangerous going forward. Tied it up in the 29th minute. Julian Ode, after a big goal-mouth scramble, like about 3 impressive defensive blocks before it was tucked to home. And I know you've watched this game, and we haven't talked about this at all, so I wanted to get your opinion on the show. Dennis Buanga puts LAFC back ahead with a winner. 35th minute from the penalty spot. Was that a penalty for you?
Yeah. I thought it was when I watched it at the time.
Oh, see, to me, not a penalty at all. Buanga just puts his leg out to get brought down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're saying he initiates the contact, right?
Yeah.
And
there's minimal contact as well.
Yeah, they're definitely. it was on the softer side, like comparing it to like Rusnak's being brought down by, was it Waterman, I think, from Montreal.
Yeah.
That was quite a lot more obvious and quite of a bigger hit on the leg, even though you could say the reaction was delayed and embellished or whatever. But I'm I can understand why it was given, like the Boenga. Like I when I watched it, I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm not shocked at this. This was not. I didn't think it was that controversial.
But the ref's called over to have a look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and then says, "Yep, I'm sticking by my decision."
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. That is okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. You don't often see the ref go against the VAR against the VAR request. Although I know the Whitecaps I've seen that a lot, especially in the early years of VAR.
I don't know. I'm curious, like what all the analytics of the games this weekend with like instant replay and stuff is going to make of that. But I mean, it was the decisive moment. It was the match winner.
Oh, it absolutely was. It will be interesting to see. It would be interesting to see, and this is something they could do, and maybe should do, is to make those conversations audible for the viewing audience.
Well, they were going to explain all the VAR decisions, and then with the strike and some of these things haven't quite happened yet. But
because even an explanation, even if the ref said, "Look, they called me over to look at this. I still see there is contact. I still think it's a foul. It's a penalty." Or obviously a little more concise than that, but
yeah. I mean, LAFC closed the game out well. They only allowed the Galaxy one shot on target in the second half for a team chasing a game in a derby game. So I mean, they saw the game out perfectly, and it was a great result for the Whitecaps.
It wasn't the best LA derby, that's for sure.
No. But like looking ahead now to next week, this is a Galaxy team that they're definitely dangerous in attack. The goal that they scored, I could almost see that happening against the Whitecaps, like block, and then it just gets put away.
Yeah.
Just how things work out sometimes. But I think defensively they're susceptible. I think the Whitecaps certainly have got the pieces that can struggle, or that can cause some problems. I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic game. But I fancy the Whitecaps next week.
Oh, I agree. I think it's going to be an intriguing game. But I agree with you. I think the form Vancouver's in, I think they're more than likely to come on top.
Yeah. So elsewhere around the West, what an eventful weekend it was. Colorado Rapids survived a messy goal. Yes, he's back. For those maybe a little bit worried about that game coming up next month here at BC Place, they basically need him back to Inter Miami if they want to advance in the Champions League, or Champions Cup I should say. But Colorado came away with a big point at Inter Miami. The Rapids had actually taken a 45th minute lead through Navarro before being pegged back by 2 goals in a 2-minute spell leading up to the hour mark. Cole Bassett though was the Colorado hero, tying things up in the 88th minute with a nice quick counter-attack goal. 2-2 draw, big point for the Rapids, who are showing signs of being the team that I expected them to be this season. Have to say though, football media in North America need to stop overusing the term Galazzo. The headline on the MLS site was Messi Galazzo. Watch the highlights and it's like, yeah, he hit it from the edge of the box. It took a deflection. It is not a Galazzo. And please, please, please stop overusing that term. Save it for the absolute cracking goals. Austin made it back-to-back wins with a barn-burning come-from-behind victory against San Jose Earthquakes. Sebastian Driussi hitting the winner from the edge of the box 11 minutes into second-half stoppage time. Austin had trailed 2-0 in this one before 3 goals in a 5-minute spell just past the hour mark put them 3-2 up. Quakes tied it up again before the late drama saw Austin take all 3 points, slowly moving up the table. Houston outshot and outpossessed Chicago Fire in the Windy City, but all that mattered were the shots that hit the back of the net and the Fire won that stat and the match 2-1. In a great result for the Whitecaps, it was a 1-1 draw between two of the other teams at the top of the West, Minnesota and Real Salt Lake. Chicho Arango got on the score sheet again for RSL, giving them a lead in the 24th minute, and it was a lead they held on to until 3 minutes from time. Another late goal from Minnesota, Tani Olawase, poked home, but Minnesota finished the game with 10 men. Joseph Rosales got sent off for a second yellow. A soft one for me. Bit of pushing and shoving in the box as a corner was coming in. Rosales gets the second yellow, but Minnesota held on and a share of the points. Great news for the Whitecaps. St. Louis and Dallas played out a 0-0 draw. The teams had 36 shots between them, 11 of them on target, but neither keeper was beaten on the day. The final Western game on Saturday saw Montreal capitulate in Seattle, as we mentioned in the first part, going down 5-0 to a Sounders side that seemingly found their shooting boots. You don't like to see that with the Whitecaps going there in 2 weeks' time. Rui Diaz getting 2 of the goals. Montreal looked awful defensively, and Joe Waterman had a game he'll certainly want to forget. The last game in the West came on Sunday with KC blowing a 3-goal lead at the half against Portland. The KC fans were serenading Max Crepeau in the first half with a long "you're the worst goalkeeper in the league" chant, but it was Max and the Timbers that had their last laugh, and full credit to Portland. They fought back last week at BC Place from going 2 behind to level it up. This time they hit 3 in the second half to seal a point. Evander from the spot, Federico Mora and Eric Miller with the Timbers goals. The turning point in this one, though, came just after the hour mark. Tommy was fouled in the box for KC. Agada stepped up to take the penalty on a hat-trick, pulled his penalty wide left. Portland then went up the pitch, got a penalty of their own, which Evander converted, and from a possible 4-0 scoreline, it was 3-1, and there was no looking back to Portland after that. Phil Neville, absolutely delighted by the fighting quality shown by his team, but not so happy that his team have been putting themselves in that position to begin with. KC have now given up a 2-goal lead at home to LA Galaxy a couple of weeks ago, and they lost that one 3-2. Gave up a 3-goal lead today at the half, only taking a point from it, and Peter Vermees certainly needs to work on that. Looking at the Western Conference standings, Whitecaps, as we know, out in front, 13 points from their 6 games played. LA Galaxy in second, 12 from their 7. Salt Lake third, 11 from 7. Minnesota fourth, 11 from 6. Then it's LAFC on 10, Houston on 10, Kansas City on 10. Austin up to 8th on 9. Colorado up to 9 on 9. Portland 8. St. Louis 8. And then a little bit of a gap between Seattle in 12th and 5. Dallas on 13th and 4. And propping everyone up, San Jose Earthquakes, just 3 points from their 7 games so far. So exciting times in the Western Conference, and a big top of the table clash now coming up for the Whitecaps next Saturday at BC Place. Be there. You don't want to miss that one. It's going to be a fantastic game. The Whitecaps playing some really nice football just now. What a time to be alive. But that is it for the Whitecaps chat for this show. That is it also for the MLS chat. We will be back in the final 2 parts with our Canadian Premier League 2024 season preview. Myself, Zach and Felipe will be casting our eye over all 8 teams, and we'll be back kicking that off after this.
Hi, I'm Callum Irving, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Something about you is soft like an angel, and something inside you is violence and danger. And you, from the moment we met, you are a danger.
number. I said somewhere between 50 and 100, but I've never had a lover. What about you? You said including you too. So all yes is new to me. I love the way you look at me. Do you love me? I said I feel as though I huffed it, but that's not the way it goes, no. Let's just go slow, like the way I would have done if I'd known that you weren't a clone I love truly. So you don't need jewelry to pull me, and really, I'd rather that you trick me than fool me. Others never waited on me, so many hated on me. They didn't care to know me, their company made me lonely. I wrote them love songs, but in my heart I always knew that it was just wrong. They're my past since you asked, a grey blur. I'll never forget them, whatever their names were.
Something about you is soft like an angel, and something inside you is violence and danger. And you, from the moment we met, you are a dangerous man.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. Brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. And kicking off this part, it's been a good few weeks since we brought you some Scottish rap, so I thought I would kick off this part with a YouTube exclusive that dropped on Word's Sons of Scotland record label this week. Glasgow rapper Mog. That was Mog versus Aurora with their song Velvet Machete. Absolute belter of a track. So let's get back to the football chat now, and we're turning our attention to the Canadian Premier League, which gets underway this weekend. Kinda has crept up on me a little bit, just about everything else that's going on in football at the moment. It's hard to believe that the 6th CPL season is about to get underway. We're going to do a little season preview over the next two parts of the show. I might be also bringing out a CPL specific episode on Thursday or Friday. We've got a few things in the pipeline, so we'll see if we get them done. If not, we'll bring them out in the show next weekend and some future shows and stuff like that. So what we're going to do in these two parts, we're going to look at 4 teams in this part, 4 teams in the next part. We're going to look at what I'm classing as the Western teams in this part. Sorry, those in Winnipeg. We've moved you out to the West. Be grateful for that, actually. You don't want to be in the East Winnipeggers. But we're going to start off with the local boys to us, Vancouver FC. And obviously, we have talked a lot about Vancouver FC this year, so we won't delve too much into them. But we haven't had Felipe's thoughts too much on their off-season, so we'll definitely look at that. 11 players said farewell to the Eagles in the off-season. Afshin Goatby's off-season rebuild was very comprehensive. 13 players have come in, including 3 players announced this week. A bit of a surprise to some, I'm sure. The giant, Nico Giantsopoulos, has joined as the backup keeper, a free agent, and 2 U-Sport signings as well. 2 guys very familiar with from my time commentating and watching them in U-Sports over the last few years. Thomas Powell from Trinity Western Spartans also plays League 1 with Unity FC, and last year's Golden Boot winner in Canada West. He set all the records at UBC. Sebastian Jakowski, UBC Thunderbird. Definitely delighted to see him. Before we get your thoughts, Felipe, on just the off-season build, what do you make of these 3 additions? You've seen some of the pre-season stuff. You've seen them in action. Nico, we've seen in CPL obviously before that, but the 2 U-Sport additions have impressed in a couple of the pre-season games, getting on the score sheet, getting some assists.
Yeah, no, I mean, I saw Thomas Powell in the game against the Fraser Valley All-Stars, and while maybe it wasn't the top competition that you really want to see tested, he did pretty well. He was pretty tidy on the ball, and I really liked his work rate. Then I wasn't able to go to the game against Altitude because it was at the same time as the Whitecaps game, but from what I saw of the highlights and what people said about it is that both Sebastian and Thomas did pretty well working together. So I think for Vancouver FC, they have so much depth already, but having these players that they can rely on if they have some injuries, and they're capable of being able to step up and perform is always important, especially if they want to really push for the playoffs and beyond this season. So I think some tidy signings, and obviously Nico Giansopoulos. I mean, maybe only Ottawa have a better goalkeeping duo than Vancouver FC. Maybe Vancouver FC, you could say, probably has better. It's a kind of a debate there, but I mean, super strong to have two like CPL top quality goalkeepers, because they're only just going to keep pushing each other, only going to keep having them improve between that competition. So I think it's three really strong signings from Vancouver FC.
It's an important one, Zach, to have Nico coming in, because Callum wasn't really challenged last year, and obviously he is the number one, but you need someone strong that's there, so you can't get complacent, so that you are getting pushed.
Yeah, last year, of course, I think Callum missed one game due to illness, due to like flu type illness, and Zelensky came in and got the clean sheet in the victory.
He looked good as well.
Felipe's beloved Forge. And I think that's literally the only action he saw. And of course, he's one of the I think 11 or so players that have moved on. I was surprised. First, I was at that game as well. When we saw him in amongst the substitutes and warming up and going practicing on the sideline. We were all like, "What? That can't, like, are we blind? Like, are we?" And then he walked by, and I was like, "Hey, we know that stash," and he gave us the look. And then some other guys were giving reacquainting themselves with him because he made quite an impression in the last game versus Ottawa last year at the end of the season. But so they were talking to him a little bit, and then of course he was announced at the jersey launch, and so yeah, he's really, really surprised, but really, really thankful, because I thought to that point we were deep everywhere in the outer 10 positions, and now Vancouver FC is deep at the goaltending position as well. So it's an exciting setup for the season. The other thing I will say is I also heard that the first time that Giansopoulos joined training, it was either the first time he joined training or it was after they knew he was going to be become a part of the squad. Apparently, I think maybe it was the first session he was there. Apparently, just in training alone, Callum's level went up in training. which again, it's that we've spoken about this a bunch, Michael, with players this year in interviews about how the level within the squad and the competition for places ideally will do that. Will push players to be the best version of themselves and or to grow beyond where they're currently at. And the initial indicators that I've heard indicate that with Callum Irving, and now there's a really, really high quality backup in Nico.
So Felipe, listeners have heard our thoughts for the last couple of months on all these additions that's come in. We won't go through the big list of them all again, but some very, very important guys have come in. A lot of experience has come in. A lot of local guys that have come in as well, that we've known for years, we've seen grow up. Some of the guys as well, guys returning now here, exciting young new additions such as Jose Navarro. What have you made of this off-season rebuild from AFTN Goat Bay? And of the additions, who do you see as being the real key ones for VFC?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this has been one of the best recruitments that I've seen from a CPL team in general. I think, obviously a lot of the attention will be on Ottawa, and we'll certainly talk about that in a bit, but I think Vancouver FC's additions have been super underrated. I mean, you from different angles as well. You look at the actual quality of the players, you look at how their stories sort of fit in with the identity of the club, signing a few young players, signing local players. It's great from a marketing point of view to be able to have these players that have friends and families that want to come up to the games and be able to bring more people in and have them be able to be more connected to the players themselves. But in terms of on the pitch, the biggest thing for me is that these signings have elevated the floor of the club. I think last season, we've spoken at length about how it was a little bit of a rush project. The recruitment didn't really go that well, and there's a lot of players that just weren't up to scratch for the CPL. And then this season, they have made up for that by signing players that have either proven themselves at CPL level or have proven themselves at maybe a higher level or another different level abroad, and being able to bring players that fans know their names and maybe fans don't know their names, but they're still exciting names. I look at a player like Kembo Kibato, who I think has the coolest name in the CPL, just case in point. But he, has impressed a lot when he was, down in USL with FC Tulsa, and also when he was in League One Ontario. He's a player that people who have watched him rate him highly, and I actually got the chance to talk to him at the event. And he's a very humble guy who really wants to play well. He wants to learn under Afshin Gotbi, and he has a drive that I think was lacking in a lot of players, especially Afshin Gotbi. He's expecting professionals. And I think he got, in his words, a bunch of amateurs, and he had to try to, make mountains out of molehills. And so it was overall a very good window for them. I think that, you ask which of the players are the ones that I'm most looking forward to. It's hard to pick just one because a lot of them you can say are needed because of how the disparity between the good players at Vancouver FC and the players that were not up to scratch. And so you look at Paris G, David Norman Jr., Nico Giansopoulos is a backup, even Elijah Ba that we know from WFC2. But I think for me, more than anything, I was super impressed by the signing of Moses Dyer, because he was fantastic for Valor in the CPL days. And, we saw Alejandro Diaz, his goals kind of dried up a little bit, maybe because he was the only focal point in the attack. And now it looks like Vancouver FC are going to have two attackers. And if Alejandro Diaz and Moses Dyer can connect well, and if they're able to, form that partnership where maybe Diaz is a little bit more of a creator, I think he might be more creatively adept than Moses Dyer, then Dyer can be the finisher. And if they can make that partnership work, then they'll have a lot of success. But overall, I look at the players that they brought in, and even like Grady McDonald, 15, I think he just turned 16 years old, fits in with that, giving super young players, time to grow and be able to test themselves against proper men. I think it was the perfect window for Vancouver FC after the rough season that they had the year before.
Yeah, it's definitely very impressive. And like, even if you just look at that game against Altitude at the weekend, which Zach was the only one of us that was actually at that, because we are obviously at BC Place last year, a 1-1 draw between those two teams. And Altitude were maybe unlucky not to come away with the win. This time, you see the difference in quality that VFC had. To be fair, though, it was Altitude's first game and they haven't got their full squad in. But it shows the confidence is there. So, I mean, Zach, what was the mood around the team? Did you feel on Saturday?
Yeah, I had to work at 6 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, so you only saw the first half.
I meant to only got to see most of the first half, which is fine. But
what was the score at halftime?
It was 4 at half.
Okay.
Yeah, 4-0 at half. So Ben had got his brace. I can't remember who else had scored, but Ben had scored, I think, the first and the last. Dyer had scored, and one other person had scored. But obviously they're playing. It's the League 1 BC side, but yeah, I think the apples to apples comparison that can be made is what you made already, Michael, and that is to last preseason, right? And it's not just the score; it's also just the chemistry, and Afshin's word, the professionalism, the level, and the level of play and the quality of play is kind of night and day. And even in this game, Campagna started and Norman was kind of sitting watching. So I hope that's not hope he was being rested. I hope that's not a sign of anything for him, because we're looking forward.
Of course, Campagna hasn't been announced yet either.
Has he? Oh, no, he hasn't. But he hasn't been announced, but he's got a squad number, so we'll see if that means anything. That doesn't mean anything yet. Because we have asked if he's in, and I don't know that that's across the line. But anyways, he started next to Rocco. and continue to play with this kind of like 4-4-2 with this time Bitar was on the left and Fisk was on the right to start, and Dyer joined Diaz, and there's a lot of dynamic ability within that group to kind of play a little bit free flowing, which can be very positive. But no, they look like a very confident bunch, and I think hopefully that sets them up well going into the season, as opposed to some of those friendlies last year that I know you saw, Michael, and you also saw Felipe.
Yeah, I mean, what we're saying, VFC, they need a big name, and they've got it now in Giantsopoulos. I mean, you don't get much bigger than that in the CPL. Can't wait to see how that jersey plays out. Talking of jerseys, before we do our 3 words, the cherry blossom jersey. Wow. Absolute thing of beauty. Still waiting for my free one, Caitlin or Steph or anyone from VFC that's listening. It hasn't arrived in the mail. So yeah, we'll watch for that arriving this week. Our coverage of the season is not dependent on that. The amount of it might be, but that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. But no, it's a thing of beauty.
It's gorgeous. It's such a nice jersey, and I mean, it was beautiful in the photos. It was beautiful, when you actually got to see it on the players in the photos. But I'll tell you, it's something else when you get to see it up close, because I was at the event, the players were there and they were wearing it, and you saw the mannequins, and it helps that, they put up pink lights and everything was pink themed, so it bought into it more. But even still, it's a beautifully designed jersey, and the fact that it's a big swing to go pink when it's not your jersey colors, and they executed it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I heard that on the online Macron store, it sold out, and it was the first jersey on the online store for a CPL jersey across the last 5 years to sell out online.
Wow.
That is how much it has been loved, and it's been picked up by UK podcasts and like kid podcasts. Like, a lot of people are paying attention to what Macron's creating, and I think this is honestly the centerpiece. I mean, there's fantastic jerseys all around, but this is, I think, probably one of the centerpieces of CPL, especially non-template kits. It's probably one of the best parts.
Another good year for Macron. It's so good. I also like the fact I don't drink lager, but I like the branding that they've got with the Pilsner that they brought out to tie in with it. That's really cool as well. It's not good for me with my allergies, I guess, the cherry blossoms, but I can put up with that. But it is a fantastic kit.
The Formula One this weekend was also in Japan, and the cherry blossoms are blooming in Japan. Like every all the shots were like all these things. I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. But no, it is I'm not usually a fan when you go that far outside your main colors, but it's when I first saw it, I was kind of like, okay, I don't love it, I don't hate it. It's one I think will probably grow on me in time, but that doesn't matter. The important thing is what you guys have said, and most people that I've heard talk about it really, really, really like it, and that's good, obviously, for sales and just for engagement and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Just to round off our VFC chat, then, we'll do what we did in our MLS preview. We'll do our 3 little words that you feel is going to sum up Vancouver FC's season, or how they're looking going into this season. So let's start with Felipe.
Yeah, my 3 words are, I mean, they're kind of reflecting of the recruitment that they've done, because I look at the team and I genuinely can't choose what the strongest 11 is because of how great their depth is.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate onto the pitch. And so my 3 words are everything to prove.
Ooh. Zach.
They've got everything to prove.
That's good, Felipe. I'm going to go with on to victory. I think that this side is built to compete in the CPL, built to compete in the Voyageurs Cup. Yeah, like Felipe said, time will tell how successful that goes, but I think they're definitely taking a step forward.
Before I give mine, I should ask you both as well. Do you see them as a playoff contender this year?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the surprising thing is that other people don't. I was talking with Joshua Healy of Wonders Notes, and he's been talking to people in and around the league, and a lot of people don't rate Vancouver FC very highly. But I think that's actually really good for them. I think
Yes.
that's something that will contribute greatly to them. I mean, a lot of the attention is going to be in like Ottawa, Cavalry Forge, even Pacific. The fact that not a lot of people are looking at Vancouver FC beyond their jerseys is only going to be helpful towards their success for the season.
And I think part of that is because the one thing you could say, as good as exciting it is for the Michael McCalls of the world to have all these local players playing, is I think some of the perception around the league might be like, these are all players who've played around the league in multiple places, and some of them had standout moments, but weren't all standouts necessarily. And so I can
fair.
see why some people around the league would be like, oh, they're not going to be that great.
Yeah.
But I disagree with that. I think, and regardless, I think it's going to be a significant step forward.
Yeah. The thing for me, and this kind of with the Whitecaps as well, I like that Vancouver FC's going under the radar a bit. What worries me a little bit about the Whitecaps is they're top of the West. Folk know about them. You've got Vanni saying, hey, give us more attention. Look at us. And it's like, no. Let's just go under the radar a little bit here. Let's play this down a little bit. But my 3 words for Vancouver FC is stronger. I'll try that again. Stronger all round. Because they've strengthened in every area of the park. Now that they've got a backup keeper as well, as you guys were talking about, they are stronger all round. So very excited to see what this season brings. The other team that we'll go into in a little bit of depth is Pacific FC. The rest are not going to be anywhere near as long as this, so don't worry for listeners. But Pacific FC is an interesting one. So we're across the Salish Sea, whatever. Do we have the official name for the derby? I like the Salish Sea Derby. I don't know if they settled on an official derby name.
I think they did. I think it's probably the Salish, because I've heard the BC, the Ferry Side, Salish. I think Salish sounds the best between them, but I don't know if that's been official. I think we'll have to wait until One Soccer writes a feature about it to confirm it or something. But I'm pretty sure that's what most people are going for.
I thought One Soccer was calling it. Was it they calling it the Ferry Side last year?
Oh yeah, which is stupid. It makes no sense at all. It's like
no sense.
No, well, what's a ferry side?
Either side of the ferry.
Yeah, but see that's not a ferry side is not a word.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
But anyway, Pacific haven't been that busy. They
kind of have.
Well, they've lost 10 players. They've been busy. They've been busy in the wrong way. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, they've lost 10 players. They've brought in 7. But the 10 players that they've lost, in amongst that, are some very big hitters that I feel haven't been replaced yet. Like, if you look at the likes of Benatti moved on, Manny Aparicio is obviously a huge one. Easton Ongaro, even though he never lit it up with Pacific. Amir Didic, who's finally been announced with Ottawa. Everyone's been waiting for that for ages. Kikuta Mane, maybe not that big a loss. He can turn it on, he cannot turn it on. So, I mean, some big pieces gone. If you look at who has come in, I mean, for me, obviously, the big one, Dario Zanata, long-time friend of the show. We haven't actually caught up with Dario yet, but we will be doing that very soon. Goalkeeping-wise, they've got a decent goalkeeper in Sean Melvin. So, I mean, they're good. Couple of free additions that I don't know too much about. Eileen Indom and Andre Tercovianu, which I don't think I murdered there. They have signed Christian Greco-Taylor, who I know from his time at the Whitecaps, and it's been an interesting one, Felipe, in that I feel they've still got pieces that they need to bring in, but they don't have a lot of roster room to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that I think is a little bit concerning for Pacific FC, because when you lose the quality of players that you lost, obviously Amir Didic, your best center back, Manny Aparicio, arguably your best midfielder, your 2 strikers, were they firing on all cylinders last season in Easton Ongaro and Genario Daniels? Not really. But when you lose both of your sort of rotation strikers, it's always going to leave a little bit of worry on how you're going to score your goals. And although they did bring in Rion Moore and Dario Zanatta in the attack, and I've learned that Ali Ndom is actually playing at center back for them, despite being a midfielder for most of his career. He's actually playing in the defense. I was cooked after my Pacific FC preview a couple of weeks ago, because I had mentioned that they didn't have a replacement for Amir Didic. And a lot of people are saying, actually, we do. It's Ali Ndom. So we'll see how he plays in the center back form with Thomas Mayer Guier. But even still, I mean, do you look at the defense and you look at the attack and it feels like it's still lacking? I think the midfield is pretty solid, even though they lost Manny Aparicio. You still have good quality players like, obviously Sean Young, you have Stephen Yates, you have Cedric Toussaint, like the decent, good CPL quality midfield. And they obviously have still Zachary Baus, which I don't know if he's going to play fullback or if he's going to play more naturally where he likes to play in the midfield. But I think my biggest concern will be scoring goals, because Rion Moore is a Trinidad and Tobago international, and he scored a lot of goals for them, but he's only ever played in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I don't want to necessarily compare the CPL to Trinidad and Tobago, but it doesn't seem like that's a big CV for a lot of people to have confidence in. I struggle to even find goal scoring records for him online.
I thought you were going to say I struggle to find Trinidad and Tobago on the map.
I mean, probably too. If I had to play, GeoGuessr with like where's Trinidad and Tobago, I probably would fail.
Actually, you know what? I think I would possibly struggle as well, and that's with me having a big Trinidad flag, because East Fife had 3 Trinidad players back in the day, which maybe also shows you the strength of the Trinidad League.
Yeah. Maybe that does not bode well. But it just feels like, and Dario Zanatta, I don't know all that much about, but he's a player that doesn't score bags of goals. So
I'll tell you about him. He is a turncoat. He played for Wraith Rovers and scored a winner against East Fife. That's who Dario Zanatta is. Dead to me now. That's why he's not
quality young man that
I
think Vancouver Football Club will regret not having brought in.
Yes, because all the rumors were he was coming to.
Maybe he'll end up
Langley.
here one day down the road, but I mean, he already in the game against Vancouver C apparently did quite the number on the VFC defense to score his goal in that game.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Dario, and when he first went to Scotland, he joined Hearts. He was very highly thought of. He was doing well for Hearts reserves or under development team, the 23s. He got first team opportunities. Looked like he'd made the breakthrough, hadn't. And then he's got goals at the lower levels in Scottish football, but the last couple of seasons he hasn't performed all that good. But he also was kind of coming off the bench, wasn't a regular in the sides. He was on sides that were also struggling and some that got relegated. He has still scored and he has contributed, but I think the pressure's on him to kind of kickstart his career again a little bit as well. So he's in a good place. He's in his home city. He's going to have friends and family there. He's hungry. And the fact, as we talked about there, Vancouver FC felt, no, we don't need him. We've got better guys coming in. That's going to light a fire under him as well, especially in the derbies. But he has got pressure. He can't do it all himself. So Rion Moore and him, how they get that partnership going. I think this is a testing year for James Merriman. And I'll give you my 3 words to kind of start things off. I think they're in tough is my 3 words. I see them dropping, battling for 4th, 5th, 6th. And maybe not even a playoff team. They need consistency in the tail end of the season. They've dropped off 2 seasons now in the run-in, and I don't think they can afford to do that again. What would your 3 words be, Felipe, for Pacific?
Well, you kind of said them at the beginning. For me, it's Merriman's biggest test, because I think he's coming into, he's been with the team for a while now, And last season was supposed to be the season for Pacific, and it looked like it at the start. They did so well, and then had that huge drop off that basically surrendered the league to Cavalry. And now they have lost some pretty big players. And I don't know if that's going to be a blessing or that's going to be a curse for them. But regardless, this is a season where, despite him signing a new contract and everything, if he doesn't do well, then I can't see him sticking around all that much with Pacific unless they really have, a lot of faith in him. So that's why I went for Merriman's biggest test.
I mean, he got that contract extension, Zach. I've always wanted him to sign someone from the Suriname club, Robin Hood FC, so we could have Robin Hood and the Merry Men. But it's never quite worked out that way. But what would your 3 words be for Pacific for this season?
Swim with fishes. No,
You look forward to the derby then.
I do think that they are going to fall off a bit. I think that one of the biggest changes for them will be, especially last year, maybe the last 2 or 3 years, they've been a very deep side. And so they've been able to rotate players in, and when a player didn't hit form, or like last year, for example, when Kakuta wasn't in form during league play, they could, okay, we're not going to start him, we'll just whatever. And I just don't think they're as deep as they have been previously. So you're right, a lot of pressure is on Merriman to figure out who his best 11 are, and then to work at getting the most out of them. So I think it's going to be challenging for them. I don't think that they're going to be horrible or anything. I still think they will be competing for the top 5 or whatever. But if they finish 6th, I wouldn't be shocked.
I mean, jumping ahead, I think it's going to be a very tight standings from 1st to 8th. I don't know that we're going to see anyone pull away at the top. I don't know that we're going to see anyone get dropped off at the bottom. So that could change, but we'll move a little bit further east now. We're moving out of BC. We're heading to Cavalry FC. Maybe the opponents that the Whitecaps will be facing in the Canadian Championship, Zach.
Yeah, potentially.
I'm hoping not, because I can't go to the first leg by the looks of it. So I need it to be Vancouver FC. So your boys have to do me a solid one here and get past a Cavalry team. Cavalry, last year, regular season champs, the first piece of silverware in their cabinet for Tommy Bealden Jr., came so close to making it the double, lost in the championship game. Very, very strange off-season for them in some regards, because they're a strong team, so they've maybe not had to do too much. There's 4 players signed, all in free transfers, and a couple of loan deals as well. So you look at who's come in, and Diego Gutierrez from Valor FC, which is a little bit of a surprising one that Valor let him go, but that's a great addition. He can play in the midfield, he can play in the defence. Tobias Warszewski, adding a big German forward, and Malcolm Shaw, just this past week, joining from Ottawa as well. The other forward they added was Leighton Brooks from Melbourne Victory. And they need a forward, with the news that came out this week that Meyer Bevan is not going to be joining the club. He's staying in New Zealand for family reasons. And I didn't see this, but Zach, you mentioned that you saw that makes him ineligible for the whole season, but I hadn't seen that.
There was an article, was it Northern Tribune? I can't remember now. But in the article, it said Cavalry have placed him on, I'm forgetting the name.
It's like indefinite hiatus, but
it's the inactive list, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the inactive list, which the article seemed to indicate that made him ineligible for play in the CPL in 2024. I'm not sure if that's with Cavalry only. Like if he were to sign somewhere else or be moved somewhere else, if that status could be updated. But that's pretty significant. It's a huge loss for them, right? His 11 league goals last year were massive for them. I mean, the number of penalties he dove to win for them was also massive for them.
Yeah, Zach sent me a message. Obviously, we are wishing Meyer all the best and hope it's not too bad from a family or personal situation. But taking that from a footballing point of view, Zach's delighted he's not in the league.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, personally, I hope everything's okay with him and his family. I don't know the situation, don't know nothing about what's been going on. But yeah, footballing wise, I'm not sad to see him not in CPL. And like I told you before, Michael, I had a conversation with him about this after one of the games last year to talk to him about simulation and his approach to that. And he was,
and like I said to you, I spoke to Tommy about your thoughts, and Tommy says you need to get glasses because he doesn't dive.
Yeah. Well, Tommy is probably just the hair. I don't have hair like Tommy, so
maybe it went in front of his eyes or something.
Yeah. But no, but yeah, Cavalry. One other thing about Cavalry, Michael, I don't know if you know this. I read this online. I haven't searched for official confirmation, but I believe the league actually has retroactively awarded them the trophy for the first year.
Yeah,
now that it's combined,
they did. But
like what, the Ottawa last season?
Yeah. But it's just nice that they did that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's huge.
I mean, if we look at the players that's moved out in the off-season, Felipe, I mean, the Ben Fisk, obviously the huge one as he's come to Vancouver FC. Roberta Alarcon, who had been rumoured at one point that he was going to be coming to Vancouver FC, but joined the other VFC, so there was maybe a little bit of a mix-up there. He went to Valor. And Joe Mason, who didn't have a fantastic 2023 season, but we know how important he has been to Cavalry in the past, his contract expired as well. Have you been surprised that there's not been more movement, or do you feel that Tommy's got such a strong squad that he's having a look to see who he's got and he may add as the season goes on?
A little bit of both. I mean, when you have a championship caliber squad, you don't want to do too much to it. That's one of the strengths that Forge has had in the last 5 years, is that they don't like to rock the boat too much. They just like to add a few pieces here and there when players, want to move on and they want to have new adventures. But at the same time, there are a couple of positions where I think they're a little weakened, specifically in the defense. I think they need at least one more player, like another fullback, to replace Alarcon, to have at least a player in every position. But aside from that, I mean, bringing in Diego Gutierrez, who isn't even guaranteed to be a starter, and for Valor he was their captain, it shows how strong this squad is. And you look at even Malcolm Shaw, if with Meyer Bevan obviously probably not going to be with the squad, he's probably going to stay in New Zealand for the time being because of this personal issue. They're going to have to rely a lot on Malcolm Shaw and Tobias Warchowski. I mean, Tobias Warchowski was a great player, but he hasn't played football in a year, like pro football. So a lot is going to be resting on them, and even Ali Musi to try to provide. So it's going to be a little bit maybe rockier than they expected, but still, this is such a good squad where they're so strong all across the board. And I mean, it's kind of hard
with Willie Akio and Ali Musi up front. There's always going to be goals there. I mean, you look at Vancouver FC and there's goals throughout the team. You look at the front line in particular of Cavalry, and it's like, every CPL team would take either of those two, I think, on them.
Oh, yeah. There are two very strong players that give the biggest thing that I saw last season, what made Cavalry so good, is they gave them a lot more energy, a lot more dynamism, and it was something that a lot of people weren't expecting from Cavalry, to sort of have that, these kind of players in a Tommy Wilden Jr. team. And so I think it took a couple of people by surprise when Gauthier and Tigny was still there as well. So I think, having those two players is only going to make them even more dangerous, where, defenders are going to think twice before committing a challenge. And it's those little things across the game that can elevate you to be able to be not just somebody who's competing, but to be an actual champion.
Yeah, I think Ali Musi is massive for them. It'll be interesting to see how much of a focal point Tommy makes him, and also playing with Toby, I think, will be a little bit of a different dynamic for them. One player I'm excited to see continue to progress is Mail Henry. Really was sad when he didn't get to make the breakthrough in Vancouver. And I think that trade that brought Mickey Cantav this way was beneficial to both sides, and Henri helped them obviously in their youth minutes that they needed to achieve, but he also made contributions on the pitch, including finding the back of the net. So I hope that he's able to continue to progress as a footballer for obviously himself personally, but also for maybe as someone down the road who has a look in at the national teams as he gets older and continues to develop. Maybe that's a long shot, but I look forward to following him.
I would feel that's a long shot. But Zach, give us your 3 words for cavalry.
I can't give you the ones I wanted to give you because you'll make fun of me for it. But off to the races. I think they're gonna
That's
off
4 words.
That's 4.
Gee.
To the races.
To the races. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think
Take that.
they're I think they're going to come out quickly, and I think Tommy knows that you need to come out quickly in this league and get the points on the board. And because their quality, their depth, their experience, I think they're going to get off to a quick start. The interesting thing for me will be to see, can they kind of keep it going throughout the whole season. And obviously, I'm excited to see what happens in their Voyageurs Cup opening round match.
Yes. Looking forward to that one. Felipe, your 3 words for the Cavs.
I mean, I think they're definitely up there for a contender to, defend their North Star Shield. But really what I'm going to be looking at is way at the end of the season for the playoffs, because I know that that's the last piece of the puzzle for Tommy Wilden Jr. So my 3 words are out for revenge, as they'll be looking to try to secure that North Star Cup and maybe do the double. And how amazing would it be for them if they could do it over bitter rivals Forge FC?
My 3 words are front runners again. You know they're going to be, well, you don't know 100%, but you've got to think top 3, probably top 2 in the regular season, and then it's just, can they get the job done in the playoffs? It's what's let them down so far, and they're going to be hungry, and they've got a good core, so we'll see where that goes. So from a club that hasn't done a lot in the off season because they've got a good core, to another club, another VFC club that's completely gutted their roster, even more so than Vancouver FC. 16 players have moved out. That's a whole team that would play in any game, especially if you're only travelling with 5 subs. But 16 players out, 11 players in, one of them being a season loan, which I don't like season loans within the league where there's only 8 teams, but we'll come at that in a sec. I'm talking, of course, of Valor FC, and we'll round off this part with a quick chat about them. You look at the players that's moved on, and you're like, Matteo De Brienne, probably a big one going to Atletico Ottawa. The rest, I think, probably replaceable. Have they been replaced? I don't know. They did get a fee for Pacific Neon Gabiri. I don't know if I did that one right. He was a player that we were all excited about coming into the season because he looked so good, and he's gone to the Tampa Bay Rowdies down in USL. For players that's come in, Shan Hundle making the move from one VFC to the other. Really looking forward to his first visit out to Langley, and very curious, I know Zachemy's talked about this, as to what kind of reception he's going to get, because he is down in Vancouver FC history as their first ever goal scorer, but didn't have maybe the nicest things to say. Zachary Secunda has come in from Finnish side, IF Niston. Roberto Alarcon, I can never remember what way to pronounce that. He's one of the other signings that's come in as well. A couple of Aussies that they've added to it as well. Abdul Benati from Pacific FC up front is the guy that I'd imagine they're looking for him and Hundle to try and form some kind of partnership. It just feels, Zach, that this is a big year for Philip DeSantis. He's got to turn this team around, or I don't even think he sees it out if they get off to a bad start by mid-season.
I don't know, Michael. I think that the Winnipeg Football Club, who runs Valor, is not going to fire anyone.
Well, they don't have a lot of money, to be fair. Yeah.
I think if my understanding is correct, this is the last year of his contract, or guaranteed year of his contract, and if they don't do well, then he won't be renewed or engaged in contract negotiations in the offseason. But it is interesting to see this overhaul that he's made. For me, the interesting part about Sean Hundal is not the reception he's going to get. It's going to be what kind of role he's going to have in the side, like how big is his role going to be, and how much will he actually contribute? Because Sean obviously wants to be like the main focal point of the attack.
Well, I mean, if he's scoring, he will be. If he's not, he won't be. That's what it boils down to, really.
Exactly, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in this scenario for him. I'm also excited to see Noah Verhoeven.
Oh yes, that's the loan I was talking about.
I'm
not a fan.
Not a fan.
I like Noah. I like
Yeah.
Grant as well, TSS Rovers player. But yeah, it's a good move for him. I think he'll get a lot of playing time.
Yeah, I have always appreciated him, and I hope he does well there.
Felipe, your thoughts on Valor?
I mean, I think I like the strategy that they've gone with compared to last season, because I think last season they just went for anybody who had never heard of Winnipeg before and just saw a team that was looking for them and said, "Oh, cool," and then maybe didn't realize exactly what they were going into. And they decided to make it a lot more local and get a lot of more players that have been in and around the Canadian soccer scene, whether that be CPL or whether that be academies around the MLS clubs like Temi Antonoglu from Toronto. But I still am struggling to see this team connect and gel over across the season, especially considering that they don't have a home game until June 2nd. So a lot of their gelling is going to have to be, at altitude, 30,000 feet in the air. And I was joking with Mike that they're going to have to do their like post-match like meetings in airport hangars. And it's going to be so tough. And
Yeah.
and that's why I'll throw my 3 words out already, which was start will define. I think that their start will define their season. If they struggle to get points away from home and they kind of lounge at the bottom of the table while all the other teams kind of rack up points at home and try to steal ones from away from home, I think it's going to be a long season for Valor. And to have this much turnover, you really need to have everyone sort of back the manager and get behind his vision. And as much as I rate Phil Dos Santos as a coach, it might be too tall a task. And I'm hoping I'm proven wrong, because there's a lot of players I like. I mean, Sean Hundal, Zach, you're mentioning about his role. I think he's going to be the guy for them. I genuinely think they're going to be like, you're our number 9. We're going to rely on you for the goals. You're the guy. Everything else is going to be trying to get you the ball so you can score the goals. And he's proven that. He scored goals for, at the time, a relatively poor Vancouver FC, and he managed to score quite a few goals for them. So I think he might have sort of like an Easton Ungaro season for the Eddies a couple seasons ago, where he scores a lot of goals, but his team doesn't do all that well.
Yeah,
so
the supporting
cast's
that's not there.
Exactly. So I think that might be the destiny for Valor FC.
My 3 words would be more struggles ahead. And although I said I don't think anyone is going to get cut adrift at the bottom this year, it is down to the start, as you say. And away points are notoriously tough to pick, and the travel is grueling. At least they are in the middle of the country, which kind of helps a little bit. But that said, it's not easy to start on the road. We've seen Montreal this year start, and it's like peaks and troughs for them. I think Phil's going to be happy if he can get some points off the board and they can keep in touch, but then it's so important what they do at home. But the other thing as well is this is a huge season for them in terms of everything. We know they're up for sale. There's been a lot of discontent with the fan base. They've got to keep the fans on board. and a poor start, doesn't get bums in seats, doesn't get the money coming through, and it could be a very concerning season for them all round. Zach, your 3 words?
I too appreciate Phil DeSantos and wish him nothing but the best. Yet I concur with you guys that it will be a very difficult season for them. I'm going with bound for bottom, or bound for bottom? Question mark.
No,
yeah.
I think you don't need to put any questions on that. I mean, they do look the weakest team of the 8, and
Yeah.
I think most folk probably will have them in last place. It's just how close they get to it, and for the sake of the club, they need to keep in touch for as long as possible, because they need to get the fans back on board, and they need to get the fans coming along.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the starting the road. Is there renovations at the stadium?
Yeah, so they're completely renovating the stadium. So it's going to be out of commission for both the CFL team and for Valor FC all the way up until June. So I think it's like 10 matches of the season they're going to be on the road, and it's going to be tough.
They that stadium is not ancient or anything. Why?
No, but what I don't get with this though is you've got universities there. It's like, surely you could arrange to have a couple of the games at one of the university things. But it's not as if it's like unheard of in the league for it to be at a venue like that.
But I think maybe they don't want to incur the cost that comes with
Well,
that.
there is probably that as well.
But
yeah. But that is it for our first 4 teams. This was always going to be the longest part. Don't worry, people. The next part will be a lot briefer. We'll be turning our attention to the 4 teams out east, giving our predictions of who we think will win the regular season and the overall championship. And we'll be back with all of that after we take you back to 1974.
Hi, I'm Tommy Wilden Jr., and you are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend. We've known each other since we were 9 or 10. Together we've climbed hills and trees, learned of love and ABC, and skinned our hearts and skinned our knees. Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die when all the birds are singing in the sky. Now that the spring is in the air, pretty girls are everywhere. Think of me and I'll be there. We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the hills that we climbed were just seasons out of time.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. Brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. And we've taken you all the way back to 1974 to kick off this part, continuing to honour the Whitecaps' 50th anniversary. And I've played a bit of a sad song. I could have played it a few weeks back, but I thought it's quite a downbeat song. But there wasn't a lot of other good music around this week 50 years ago, so I thought it's fitting to play it. It was number 1 in Canada at the start of the year. It was number 1 in the UK this week 50 years ago. Terry Jacks, Seasons in the Sun, a song dubbed by some as overly sentimental. Some lists, including a poll in CNN in 2006, rank it as one of the worst pop songs ever recorded, but it was a big hit all over the world. And it's also a song that has been adapted by football fans all over the world, particularly in the UK as well. Various versions like, we had joy, we had fun, we had Rovers on the run. Stuff like that. But Terry Jacks there with his big hit from 1974. And 50 years ago, the Whitecaps were less than a month out to their first ever NASL season. Still, pretty short on players, it has to be said. And again, like 4 weeks from the start of the season, a very, quiet week in Whitecaps land 50 years ago. They did, though, announce their 6th signed player. Yes, you're hearing me right. Player number 6, with less than a month till the season gets underway. And it was a player that they had acquired the rights to way back in January, Bermudan goalkeeper Sam Newsome. He was officially announced as a Whitecap on Monday, April the 8th, 1974, so 50 years ago today that the podcast is coming out. They announced the 27-year-old goalkeeper to an NASL deal with the Whitecaps. Newsome went on to play just that one single season with the Whitecaps in 1974, making 17 appearances. He'd played the 2 previous seasons with the now disbanded Montreal Olympique, making 33 appearances for them, and then went on to play 17 times for the New York Cosmos in 1975. Played internationally for Bermuda as well, and was certainly a very key player to the Whitecaps in their inaugural season. But the player signings were not coming as fast as I think a lot of the fans were wanting. The Whitecaps even had to deny a radio report on April the 9th that they had 15 players under contract. Now, normally you would maybe want to just play into that and say, yeah, we do. But they actually came out and said that they don't have 15 players signed, but they would be starting to announce the local players that had come through the trials over the coming week. But less than a month out from the season starting, not happy times in Whitecaps land. What a difference 50 years makes. So from the past right up to the present, in fact looking forward to the future really, as we preview the 2024 Canadian Premier League season. In the last part, we looked at the 4 Western teams. We're going to look at the 4 teams out east now, and we're going to start things off with Martin Nash's York United, the former Whitecaps captain, the legend in charge of the Nine Stripes, and another team that hasn't been overly busy this off-season. 5 signings have come in, 2 loan deals as well. You've got a couple of draft picks obviously floating around as well. And 10 players have moved out from the club as well. Paris G, one of the guys coming to Vancouver FC. Roger Thompson retired. Steve's good friend Michael Petrasso, his contract expired. If you aren't a long-time listener to this show, we won't go into all of that. The players that's come in, I don't know a lot about them because Martin Nash has clearly been doing a lot of scouting. He's got Denis Salanovic that's come in from Spain, Juan Cordova that's come in from Chile, Oswaldo Leon that has come in from Mexico, Frank Sturen, who you do know about as a Canadian, who's come in from Austria, and Thomas Vincenzini, who has come in from Belgium, as well as a couple of CF Monterrey under-23 players loaned in because, of course, York have the new ownership, the new Mexican ownership, and it's going to be interesting to see what this team is going to be. There was a local player that was on trial with York United that I really hoped was going to make the breakthrough. Devon Ahay, TSS Rover, SFU standout, GNAC Player of the Year, had a great senior season with SFU, had a great season previously with TSS, didn't play much with TSS last season because his mum sadly passed away, but Martin Nash was very high on him, is still keeping an eye on him and going to see how he does in the League1 BC season. He's been lighting it up for SFU and VMSL, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Devon might make the roster. It's already a packed 20-man roster though. Zach, what are you expecting from Nash's York?
No D-Row.
Oh, of course.
That's the crazy
big
thing.
one.
Yes.
Felipe, I saw that. Was that really no transfer fee? Was he really out of contract?
Yeah. So from what I understood, it was he was on a free, and I think they obviously wanted him to re-sign. But when MLS Next Pro comes calling, and you think that's your next step to get into MLS, I think it's understandable that he went, but yeah, no transfer
Yeah.
fee is kind of.
That seems like bad management.
They've
Like
got an undisclosed
player
sell-on fee attached to it. But
on a free transfer, how does that work?
yeah, it's all very weird. I mean, he's gone to Tacoma. For anyone that's know Tacoma Defiant, so he's gone to the Sounders MLS Next Pro team.
Yeah.
So it's a big opportunity. Apparently, they've kept an eye on him for a long time. And good luck to the lad. It is a good move. And I think playing for Tacoma, who are one of the better teams in the West, in MLS Next Pro, it's going to give him some good opportunities. But it is a huge blow to York.
Yeah. But his brother's now the backup, now the keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one Di Rosario out, one Di
So many
Rosario. I mean,
Divos.
Adisa was there last year, I think, but now it's
Yeah, it was on a short-term contract
Short-term,
because a bunch of injuries they got.
Yeah.
Of course, if he doesn't make the grade and make the jump to MLS, we can have the headline from Dero to zero if he has to come back to CPL.
Copyright that quickly.
with those departures, or with some of their departures, they're less like I have less reason to not like them.
I knew that's where you were going with that. Felipe,
I mean,
what are you making of them?
They've had some pretty big departures as well. Zaza De Rosario being a big one, Nico Giansopoulos obviously leaving. One that I think people are not talking about enough is Jeremy Gagnon-Lapare, because he was
I didn't talk about him because I really struggled to pronounce his name. That's why I skipped over that.
Okay. Well, there, don't worry, I got you. Jeremy Gagnon-Lapare. But he was a rock in midfield, and he's genuinely like one of the most solid box-to-box midfielders in the CPL. And the fact that he went to Halifax is great for Halifax, but I don't think it's great for York United because he was crucial for them. And they have some players in the midfield that are still quite good. I mean, Brem Sumaro, Elijah Kugby, Matthew Baldissimo. But I think that they lost some quality, and they've brought in a lot of players that, like you mentioned, so a lot of people don't know about, and a lot of it is the Mexican players. I mean, people do, for people who have, they like to follow about dual nats, they will know Juan Cordova as like a player. He
was linked with the Whitecaps for a while.
Yeah, he's a highly touted. He was a highly touted prospect for the national team. And the fact that he chose Canada over Chile was huge, and he instantly comes in as probably one of the best fullbacks in the league. So that's a great signing, probably their best signing overall, York United. But still, I'm still not convinced. Maybe it's because I don't know enough of the players that they will be able to perform higher than what they did last season. And obviously this is going to be a transition year for York United under new ownership. It's still Martin Nash, but there's going to be a difference. There's going to be that feel of change, and I don't know how much that'll affect the team behind the scenes, but overall pretty solid. I don't think there's anything too huge to be concerned about, but I don't think there's anything to rave necessarily about either.
I find them really hard to get the pulse on.
Yeah.
Right. Like Baldissimo and Akube, of course, I really appreciate them. I forgot they still have Mo Babuli, who I don't really like. So there's someone maybe not to like on their team, but no, these new signings and the new direction and all this stuff, it is gonna be I don't, obviously on paper, I don't think they're as bad as Valor, but I don't know what to expect. I could see them not doing great, or I could see them being way better than expected.
Well, my three words are an unknown quantity.
Yeah, that's
just because. I mean, in my mind, when you've got young Mexican players, it's like they're going to be good. They're going to be skilled. I like the addition of Frank Sturin in defence, because you're adding a good experienced Canadian international. Had a couple of caps at senior level for Canada and has played in the Dutch youth teams as well. So, I mean, that's good. But, I mean, really, we don't know who these guys are. We don't know how they'll do. I don't think any of us really care too much about York to have a lot of following off them.
Well,
what would your three words be?
That's where I grew up. So I don't want them to do horrible. Like for in the community, I want them to.
I keep forgetting you're one of those Easties.
Yeah, I grew up in York Region, so but they're going to leave York Region soon enough. So
Did you know, Felipe, that Zach actually used to be a TFC fan and has TFC jerseys?
I did not, and I'm not going to comment as someone.
Felipe, Michael's pulling your leg. I've never been a TFC fan. I have been happy for some of their players.
You have got a jersey.
Yeah, I got a. You know who doesn't have a Serjan Jokanovic TFC jersey?
Me, especially him.
Who? Yeah, that's true.
He's the goalkeeper, Felipe, that cost the Whitecaps their first ever Voyageurs Cup by throwing the ball in the net 6 times.
No, he didn't throw the ball. He was in net for Montreal in the 6-1 game.
Oh, okay.
But he's a great guy, and he played.
He's a technical director locally as well.
Yeah, I have one of his Vancouver jerseys as well.
Anyway, 3 words. Come on, this is the quick part.
I was going to say Nash, hang tough.
Okay, Felipe, 3 words.
Viva la raza.
Don't know what that means, but okay.
that means that means like it's the kind of like celebration of Mexican people. It's like up the raza, which is like the race, the Mexican race.
Oh,
with all the Mexican players coming in and the Mexican identity. I think it'll be pretty fun as for Mexicans and Latinos to get to identify more with York United.
I thought that was the name of one of the owners. I don't know. But let's move a little bit further east to Felipe's club. I mean, we've got a TFC fan, we've got a Forge fan.
Oh, come on.
Felipe's not denying the Forge fan bit. And we've got the champs are here. The dynasty. I refuse to say dynasty. It's dynasty. And they've had some interesting additions and departures in the off season. I think their departures did some biggies.
I think isn't the most interesting thing the not yet departure?
Who's the not yet departure?
Well, Felipe
Tristan Henry.
Yeah, Tristan Henry.
Oh,
yeah, I found it really funny earlier when you said.
Is he not gone yet?
No word.
Oh,
word at all.
Because just before I went to Scotland, I thought he'd gone, and then I didn't pay a lot of attention, so I thought he had left.
I liked earlier, Felipe, how you said, they let players go on new adventures. And I want to be like, what about Tristan Henry?
Oh. I was just going to say the 2 that I think really big ones, like Rubens Passius was fantastic for them, and he's gone to Nashville. And Abubakar Sissoko to Ottawa is another great pickup by Ottawa, who will come to next. But I forgot Henry. So Henry is still hanging around.
No idea. That's the thing. Is like after the Northern Tribune thing that happened, where like Northern Tribune, not being biased for the outlet I work for, but Northern Tribune came out with the whole kind of like a little bit of an expose. Tristan Henry denying it, but then a lot of people saying that he shouldn't deny it because a lot of it is true.
Yeah.
It really kind of put, I think, Forge in an awkward situation. So there's not going to be there hasn't been at least any comments on it, though I have heard from the people in the league that they're planning to make an announcement soon about it, but so far there's no word on what's going on with Tristan Henry.
I asked someone from connected to the league recently, and they said, don't expect to see him play for Forge this year.
Wow. It's I mean, and then just in summary for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, he wanted to go to the US for green card issues, if I remember right.
To renew his green card.
And Forge had said no, or they were wanting a big whack of money if they were going to let him go, or were they just not wanting to let him go?
They didn't want to let him go, and they triggered the club option for him, even though he said he didn't want to stay, which obviously rubbed him the wrong way.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's disappointing.
He's like their Camilo.
Camilo got mentioned yesterday in the Whitecaps press box, and as soon as his name was mentioned, I was like, "Oh, we're allowed to say his name again." Yeah. Brian White's closing in on beating his all-time MLS record.
39 goals.
It's
45 more.
I had in my head, but
45, and I think Brian has 42 or 43.
Well, that's maybe in all competitions then.
It is in all competitions.
Oh
yeah,
it's in all competitions.
He had 39 in the league, I'm pretty sure.
Soon he can get erased altogether. Anyway, back to CPL.
Can I ask Felipe another question about Forge?
He's the expert.
Oh, it's Forge and your friends at Northern Tribune. So they've just reported that Kevon is being looked at by Monaco and is going to go. Is he going to go on trial or going to have a training stint there?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's technically unattached because he only signed a short-term contract with Forge for the Champions Cup. So he technically like isn't with Forge. So there's nothing about like they could just pick him up and Forge have nothing to say for it. So I'm not quite sure in the details of like whether they are going to invite him to trial or stuff like that, but they have free reign on signing Kevon. So Forge might not be able to have any say in it at all, which would be, I mean, great for him and great for, if he's able to, but tough on Forge because I think this season they're going to have to rely a lot on their young players. And he was one that a lot of people have rated highly. And when I spoke to Bobby for the interview that I had on Coast to Coast, he saw the sky was the limit for the kid. So if he does leave, then it's another big blow for Forge.
He looked really good at the U17 World Cup alongside TJ, and then looked maybe in some ways even better, partly because of his goal scoring exploits for the U20s, and really high hopes for him. It's unfortunate if what you're saying has happened and that they won't be able to get anything for him. That's kind of unfortunate, but for him and his development and for again his future with the Canadian national team, hopefully he can go to a place where he can continue to develop and grow, because going to somewhere like Monaco would be obviously very exciting.
What an opportunity. We'll just get to the three words, because we know what Forge are. We know what they are. We know what they are. Front runners again. I'm using the same thing that I use for Cavalry. I mean, again, if they're not top 2 or top 3, it would be a major shock.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm seeing a lot of people doubt them across the league, and even honestly a little bit myself. I don't think they're going to drop out of.
I doubted them last season, and I was proved wrong.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can never bet against Forge, but I think a lot of people are saying this might be the year because of the players that they lost. They lost 4 key players. Wounds Passius, you mentioned, but but Manjikar James was like the heart and soul of that defense.
Yeah, I don't know that he's been replaced or who steps up to fill his shoes, because it's like when Edgar moved on, he was the guy that kind of took over from Edgar.
Exactly. So they haven't found a replacement for him, and he's a massive hole in that defense. And as much as I like Dominic Samuel, I don't know if he's like a like for like replacement for him in the center back position. So they look like they're on course to maybe have a struggling season, but because you can never bet against Forge, my 3 words were prove them wrong. You got to prove the season is a huge one for Bobby to yet again prove the doubters wrong, that Forge are faltering.
Zach.
Yeah, I would never bet, let alone against them. But my 3 words are break the hammer. I think that they are even more susceptible than last year to not maybe not even make the final, let alone have another victory in it. But I don't think they'll win the regular season. No,
but they seem to be able to get the job done in the playoffs. But they've got a lot of competition in that regard this year. But the next team we're going to talk about, which is Atletico Ottawa. That was a horrible attempt at a Spanish accent. I apologise to all the Latinas listening. But I'll give you my 3 words now. My title favourites. I think it's really hard to see past them. The squad that Carlos Gonzalez has built is just so impressive. And there was a lot of turnaround. I mean, you're looking at, let's see, there's 12 players moved on. You had Carl Wime retiring. Martin Kimshaw's the most recent departure to Cavalry. Zach Verhoeven to Vancouver FC. A lot of loan deals expired. But you look at the guys that they've brought in, and it's Matteo De Brienne from Valor. Balou Tabla has come back again. Chris Twardick coming back from Ireland and Bohemians.
Mhm.
Sissoko from Forge. Yesley from Valor. Grant from York. DeSantis from York. Manny Aparicio and Amir Didic. The two massive signings from Pacific. And they've got Luke Singh back on loan as well. I mean, Zach, this is looking on paper to be the powerhouse. Can anyone stop them?
No, that you took my 3 words there, though, right there. I would say best on paper. Now they have to go out and prove it.
On grass or turf.
Yeah. I think the options that they have in the middle of the park are crazy, right? In this league, when you talk about having, Oli Bassett, Manny Aparicio, Sissoko,
How about there?
yeah, he's on the older end of things, but yeah, for sure. And then they have really good options up front as well. Salter's still there. Who else? Oh yeah, but it'd be interesting to see how Baloo performs for them this year. And Ingham can have his dodgy moments, but is still a solid keeper for the Canadian Premier League.
Best eyebrows in the league.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. I just think that they're arguably the best on paper.
Yeah, I mean Felipe, we knew the Didic one was coming. He's been training with them for weeks, and I'm not quite sure why it took so long to announce him. But picking up Aparicio and him, it's like, wow. That just made an already strong squad even stronger.
Yeah, and it's to such a degree where I had 3 words, so I'll give the first 3 words now and then save the other one for later, where it's like, welcome Galactico Ottawa, because it's genuinely like the Canada's first super team. Zach, what were you?
I saw that. One Soccer put that out, right?
Yes, well, I'm stealing that from One Soccer. Yeah,
yeah. It's kind of awkward because you're giving a Real Madrid term to an Atletico Madrid club. I'm sure that's very highly offensive to the mothership.
It's true, but I mean, it's the best way to describe them because they're bringing literally an all-star team.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah.
Like
give us your other 3 words then.
But my other 3 words are they must perform, because you don't bring these players in this quality in and not win anything. That would be like no one has more pressure in this league than Carlos Gonzalez, because he must have these players succeed. They must win one or both silverware, or else I think they'll have his head, because they are far and away the best team on paper. And if that doesn't translate onto pitch, heads will roll.
Part of me was surprised that they kept him for this season. But he did do well the season before, so it's like, this is the massive season. He comes across as a really nice guy, very knowledgeable. He's obviously got faith from the mothership. And I mean, Zach, what would your 3 words be for this star-studded Ottawa side?
I'm going to stick with the ones I gave you a few minutes ago. Best on paper.
Oh yeah, I forgot you came out of the trap early with that one.
Well, because you came out with yours early, didn't you? For the
yeah, I did. I like to come early. Gets it over and done with. Don't have to worry with any other stuff. But yeah, I mean they are the title favourites. I think, and they have to perform, and we'll see how all that plays out. The final team we'll quickly look at, the team that is currently in BC. They've played Whitecaps 2. This comes out on Monday, 3:30 kickoff at Thunderbird Stadium. They're playing UBC Thunderbirds. But a lot of movement in this one as well. A couple of surprise guys that were either let go or João Morelli retired, so not really much you could do there. But Tia Colom, I loved what he brought to the team last year, and I'm not quite sure why they declined his option. I really expected someone to stamp him up. Daniel Henry, who was, whether trialling or what, with Vancouver FC for a bit, still looking for a club. Christian Campagna, I was disappointed that they let him go as well, because I'm a big fan of Christian. But hey, in Patrice you trust. JGL, I will call him. They brought in from York. Ryan Telfer coming back to the league from Miami FC. We know what he can do. Kareem So, who I've watched in U Sports, and I am a huge fan of Kareem, and I think he's going to do very well with them. They've got a Brazilian in Vitor Diaz from SKC2. And the signing that I really, really like, Felipe, is Christian Vallejo. Forward, I've followed Valesky's career for a while because back in the day when WFC2 were in USL, I was a writer for USLsoccer.com and I covered the whole Western Conference and sometimes teams in the East as well. So I paid a lot of attention to Vallejo. When he went to Monterrey, it was a team because I like that area of California. I kind of followed him there. I think this is a fantastic addition for Halifax. And he has got all the skills, and he's still at a good age to really light it up in the CPL.
Yeah, he's somebody that I think when you look at a Halifax Wanderers side, they need to have experience up front. That was something that I think was lacking last season. They had a player like Teo Colom, they had Thiago Coimbra. I mean, Massimo Ferran, you can pretty much put anywhere in the front three, but they were lacking that experience of a player to really spearhead that attack. And I think they have got that with Christian Valesky. I didn't know much about him beforehand, but reading a bit more about his resume, somebody who has been in and around this level for a long time, and he knows what it is to score goals against all different types of defense. And I think that's something that is crucial for Halifax Wanderers if they want to push a little bit more.
He was always on the cusp of making that jump to MLS, and it just never happened for him.
Yeah. And now I think he'll have a great opportunity to really start his stuff for a Halifax Wanderers side that needs him as much as he might need them. And you look at the other signings that they've made, like you mentioned, like Ryan Telfer and Jeremy Gagnon-Lapare, and this is looking like a really strong squad. And if you look at what Patrice was able to do with Halifax in year one, you can only expect that they're going to get even better in year two. And I think a player like Christian Valesky and another player in Julian Dunn, who is someone that has a lot to prove. And from what I've heard of journalists, is somebody that is really putting the work in at center back. I think it's going to be a great addition for them in the defense, but all around they look very, very solid. And I think if Patrice Geyser can get the best out of them in the same way that he got the best out of the other players last season, they might be the real surprise package in the league.
Yeah. For me, Zach, I see him in the middle of the pack, but it could go either way above the line or below the line. I think for Halifax, it would be nice to see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I still think 6 years in, they're still most people's second favorite side.
Yeah.
In the league, after you're local, the club maybe you feel an attachment to. Well, how did they hang on to Nimick? I thought for sure
I don't know.
Like I thought they might even get offers that would make it kind of hard for them to keep him because he performed so well last year, and I'm really interested to see if he partners with Julian Dunn, and what that'll mean for their defense and with filling behind them. I also who else on their team is interesting to me. As you guys were talking about Valesky, I was looking at someone else on their team where I was like, oh, I'm interested to see what they're going to do this year.
A new guy or
well, actually Telfer coming back and Ferran, I think, Massimo Ferran, I think they have some dynamic players. I think Telfer could be huge for them. You put JGL in the middle of the park or on the left side or whatever, and it provides more options for them. Also, we saw Rampersad, of course, play for TNT against Canada. He's someone that's a significant player for them. So yeah, I agree with you though, Michael. They kind of could go either way, and as long as it doesn't impact Vancouver FC, I kind of hope it's kind of the positive way.
Yeah, my three words will be in the middle. Zach?
I would. That's funny. I was going to say in the mix.
I was going to say in the mix, and I went for middle.
Great minds and all that. Right?
I went for two different three words. I went for the surprise package, which I sort of said earlier, and the other one is must avoid gutting. Because one thing that I'm worried about is that come summertime, if they do really well and Dan Nimick continues to do really well and Lorenzo Caligari continues to do really well, they might get a couple of their players picked away and then they might have a big fallout towards the end of the season.
That's really valid.
Yeah. I still hope to make it out to a game at Halifax at some point. I
That'd be a dream.
really want to. It's just looks such a great atmosphere, such a great stadium. One day I'll get out to there and hopefully to PEI and stuff as well. So we'll just round off our CPL chat. I just want... we'll do this... We'll go around the three of us and we'll do it in two different bits. I was going to get to get them both at once, but we'll just do it one at a time. So who do you think is going to be top of the table at the end of the regular season? Felipe?
I think despite, Ottawa having this super team, I don't know if they'll be able to gel quite quick enough to have the strongest of starts, but I do think they'll be up there in the top two or top three. Nevertheless, I'm going to give it to last season's regular season champions, which is Cavalry, because even though Myra Bevan kind of puts a little bit of a spanner in the works, they have such a strong squad that it's hard to look past them to defend their title.
Yeah, I want. My heart says Vancouver FC, but I would agree with Felipe that looking at it more analytically, that it's going to be between Ottawa and the Cavs.
Yeah, I'm with that as well. I think Ottawa's just going to do it, and I actually think they're going to do the double. I think they will lift the North Star Cup at the end of the playoffs as well, and it could be a Cavs Ottawa battle for both titles in the end. It would be heartbreaking if Cavalry just falls short again, I've got to say. So,
Felipe would love that.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't mind it.
North Star Cup, anyone not seeing Ottawa lifting it?
I actually, for me, I think
he's Forge. He's going Forge.
No, not even Forge. I see Halifax doing it.
Ooh,
I see Halifax that
Patrice has won you over.
No, I've talked with him enough times that I've bought into him 100%. All my stocks are in him. But I do think dependent, if they get a home leg in the playoffs, I think they have a great chance to go all the way to the final. And I love the way they play. And I think on their day, they can beat anyone. And that's what the playoffs are all about.
That feels like a bold prediction, but it's nice to hear you not say Forge or potentially against Cavalry as well.
Yeah, it's also nice to not have Zach going, Vancouver FC double.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, that's what the heart says. But no, I think you're probably closer, Michael. I think on paper, it's hard to see it not being Ottawa.
I hope it's not. I would like two different teams to win it.
Yeah.
Unless it's a team that I like, then they can win it. Like, if Vancouver FC did the double, I'd be happy with that. If Tommy got to do the double, I'd be happy with that for Tommy.
What about Josh Hurd?
I made a promise to myself I would not mention him on this show.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. You didn't tell me. I wouldn't have brought it up.
You were doing so well.
I didn't know you were fasting.
Let's just wrap this section up. Thank you for joining us, Felipe. Let all the listeners know where they can find your CPL stuff and all your other stuff as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Love to chat with you guys as always. And people can find me on my socials at FelipeV_FC, writing for Northern Tribune. That's mostly where I'm writing CPL stuff. Also writing for AFTN for the Whitecaps. And you can listen to me on my podcast, Coast to Coast FC, where we're covering all things CPL and Canadian soccer. We're branching out to new things. So I made my first reel this past week, and hopefully working on some projects in the coming months to really put more content out there and collaborate more with creators so that we can really put CPL on the map for Canadian sports. But that's me.
Felipe, keeping it real. That is it for our football chat. It's not it for the show though. We've still got this episode's wavelength. Now, you know me, I'm not a big fan of the England national football team, but I've got to say, a lot of the good football songs are about the English national team. It's just part of something in our culture that we've grown up with in the UK. Football songs and punk music and rock music, they kind of go hand in hand. So I've had this one for a while, but I think it's maybe apt to play it on the show this week, with the Whitecaps being top of the West and arguably top of the Supporters' Shield standings. We're going back to 2019, and it's a punk band from Derbyshire in England. This is a song taken from their album Hooligan Anthems, which is a fantastic 15-track album featuring songs like I Think You've Gone and Mistaken Me for Someone Who Gives a Fuck, I May Not Be the Best Looking Bloke, But I'm the Only One Talking to You, and How Can I Tell You I Miss You If You Won't Fuck Off. So as you can maybe imagine, this song is going to feature a bit of swearing in it, but it's by a band called Apocalypse Babies. It's a song for the England football team, but I think we can adjust it for the Whitecaps. This is Let's Go Mental.
Stadium, still mental in a street. Another beer flies through the air. It must be the heat. We're 1-0 up in the World Cup. We've got these bastards beat. No one likes us. We don't care. Let's go fucking mental. Let's go fucking mental. La 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 la. Let's go fucking mental. Let's go fucking mental. La 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 la. Let's go mental in Times Square. Let's go mental for the Queen. Can't believe our eyes, they've equalised. So smash the TV screen. Cause we are fucking England, the greatest football team. No one likes us, we don't care. Listen. Let's go mental in our living rooms. Go mental down the pub. Blasting out the three lines tune and scoffing up the grub. From Newcastle to Bournemouth, it's the national club. No one likes us, we don't care. Let's go fucking mental. Let's go fucking mental. La 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 la. England. La la. Let's go fucking mental. Let's go fucking mental. La 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 la. England. La 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 la. England. Let's go fucking mental. Let's go fucking mental. La 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 la. La la la. Let's go fucking mental. Let's go fucking mental. La 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 la.
From Derbyshire, England, Apocalypse Babies and their song, Let's Go Mental. And I'm sure we all are, with the Whitecaps being top of the league. So that is it for the show now. Thank you to Felipe for joining us. You can follow him on Twitter, FelipeV_FC. And as he mentioned, all his stuff on AFTN, Northern Tribune and Coast to Coast. Zach, where can folk find you online, and any final thoughts for you this week? I guess this is our time of the show where we have our German football chat.
Oh my, Michael. You can find me on X occasionally, tweeting or retweeting or what Xing, what I don't know what it's called. You can find me there at Zachary AM. German football this week.
I watched one and a bit of the semi-finals. I watched the whole Saarbrücken
I'm proud
semi.
of you. I feel bad for Saarbrücken.
I watched the Leverkusen one till they went 2 up, and I was like, well, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Saarbrücken fairy tale comes to an end. Unfortunately, I think it was 2-0 in the end.
Yeah, had the chances, that header in the first
Yes.
half. I think when it was 0-0.
Yeah.
The guy, I don't even know who he was, but the guy that had scored in the previous games and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I feel bad for them. But
at least there's a second division team in the
Yeah.
final.
Saarbrücken's last appearance in the German Cup final, Michael, was 2003 against Bayern Munich. The only German Cup final I've been to.
Oh.
And can you guess who scored for Kaiserslautern against Bayern that day?
No.
It's a very famous German goal scorer, Michael. He scored with his head.
Adolf Rudi Voller.
No, Rudi Voller never played for
He's
Kaiserslautern.
I don't know. He's a very
2003, Michael. He was coaching the.
I don't know.
Miroslav Klose. A brace for Michael Ballack. Both of his goals were helped set up by Owen Lee Hargraves, and Claudio Pizarro with a chip of the keeper from a little bit of ways out. 3-1 Bayern over Kaiserslautern. It was a great day.
See, Ian McHugh will be loving this. He messaged to say how much he's been enjoying our German football chat at the end of the show. But that's not the big German football story I want to talk about.
Before we get to your sensationalized story, if people didn't watch another interesting outing from Bayern in the Bundesliga, those who are looking like Ian, who are looking forward to the Bayern's demise this season, took a giant leap forward again on the weekend after losing to Dortmund last weekend. They played their first ever Bundesliga game away to Heidenheim, and were pretty well in control in the first half, 2-0 at the half. But Heidenheim in the second half kind of lived out their supporters' pre-match tifo, which just said in German, "Dare to beat Bayern," with a picture of, I'm not sure who the dude was supposed to be. I don't know if it's a famous iconic player or ultra or whatever, but a dude wearing, I think he was wearing like a Heidenheim jersey, and he had Uli Hoeneß by the Lederhosen, almost like giving him a wedgie. And I think Hoeneß was holding a beer and a sausage in his hand because
Hoeneß, sure it was a sausage.
Yeah, because he owns a sausage company. Anyways, it was they lived that out by scoring 3 unanswered goals in the second half. And beating Bayern 3-2.
Do they have Heidi as a mascot? Because that would be tremendous.
Heidi from Heidenheim?
Yeah.
That
takes me back.
I don't know who their mascot is. Anyways, another interesting
German story, but not the most interesting German story.
No. My buddy.
Stop delaying it.
My buddy Flo, who you know as my
Jungwirth. He's leaving the Whitecaps. He's going to coach, and he's going to the Bundesliga academy. He hasn't said which one yet, but he's going back to Germany.
Nice, good for him. No, Flo, my buddy Flo, my ticketing guru, he sent me a picture from in the away section. There was only 2, like the team came over to clap the supporters at the end, which obviously in those circumstances is never an easy thing to do. But there was 2 players who kind of came the closest and stayed the longest. And one of those 2 was hopefully not soon to be departing, but likely soon to be departing, Alphonso Davies. So he sent me a picture, like a close-up picture of Alphonso from the supporter block of like commiserating with the fans.
Can we get to the big German story now?
It's not a big German story.
It's a big German story.
It's not a good German story.
You've now got a kit to rival your 1938 one that you've got.
I do not have a 1938 kit, Michael. Stop spreading lies.
So if anyone hasn't seen this,
oh my,
shocking stuff out
my
of
buddy,
Deutschland.
In addition to you, my buddy Flo also sent me this article.
Nazi numbers on the German kit, Zach.
Oh my goodness. So Adidas's font on the new German kit, they have banned and they have stopped sales of people ordering the number 44 on the back because the font can make the 4s appear to look like the SS logo, right? That's essentially the story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shocking stuff.
So Adidas has banned them from being purchased and has apologized publicly for what can be perceived as a hateful and negative thing, obviously.
I tried to get you one, but I couldn't. But on the plus side, I did get you a number 88.
Oh my goodness.
Had to get it off Jordan Much, but
I knew you were going to say I knew you were going to say Michael.
Podcast tropes. Anyway, that is pretty much it for this show. Whitecaps playing on Saturday night. Get out and watch that one. Sunday, get out and watch that as Vancouver FC. We didn't talk about it in the preview.
We didn't talk about it, yeah.
I forgot about that.
The CPL kicks off on the 13th.
Yeah,
and Vancouver
I genuinely can't believe it's starting this weekend. It just seems to have really come up on me.
Yeah, if you want tickets with the supporters, get in touch with me or get in touch with Andrew Harley directly. We have like $20 adult tickets and I think like $10 kids tickets if you want to be with us.
This is going to sound awful. What's who are they playing? I can't remember.
Oh, it's the VFC Derby. It's Sean Hundal Memorial. Memorial. It's a Sean Hundal
Memorial. I genuinely had no idea who they were playing on Sunday because I've just been so focused on Whitecaps and Provincial Cup stuff. I'm hoping to try and take in a few Provincial Cup games as well. This is going to be another busy weekend.
Are you gonna be in Langley?
I will be, even if it's clashing with Provincial Cup. I can't miss the home opener. I missed it last year, the first ever home game. I was gutted about
I was going to say you can't miss it. You're like, but I missed it last year.
Well, I'm going to miss a few games over the course of the summer because of League One and commentary stuff. So I want to try and get to as many as I can. So I'll definitely be out at that. I'll be at a few Provincial Cup games as well. We'll have a roundup of the Provincial Cup on AFTN. I was at 3 games, got videos from those. They're up on our YouTube channel. Check that out, AFTN Canada on YouTube. And it's just a fantastic time for football in the province. I love April. It's such a busy month. It's such an enjoyable month. I'll see my wife in May. I saw her just now. She came down the stair. So thankfully not coughing.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But that is it for another AFTN Soccer Show. We'll be back with another one soon. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care. Mon the Caps and Mon the Eagles. Fly, baby, fly.
Fly, baby.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
AFTN